Roll call, Claire,
Okay, Len Erickson,
here.
Dan Haggerty. Dan,
Here.
Barbara Mathewson,
Here.
Dave Olson,
Here.
Michelle Weil,
Here.
and I'm here. We have everyone's here.
Okay, very good. The next item on our agenda is the supervisor's report. So I will call on first Carrie.
Great, thanks so much, Len. Good evening, Midcoast Community Council members and members of the community. I'm Carrie Dahlman. I'm providing a report this evening on behalf of Supervisor Don Horsley's office. I'm also accompanied by my colleague, Lena Silverman, on the call tonight. So my first update is about the 2020 census. It's still ongoing. With less than a month until the census closes, we're continuing to push for all members of the community to respond to the census. Right now, San Mateo County has surpassed last year's response rate, which is great. We're super grateful for that. We also want to keep pushing to ensure everyone is counted so that we may receive the money and resources that our community deserves. Additionally, San Mateo County is continuing the COVID-19 response. It's definitely turned into more of a marathon. Based on the state's criteria, every county in California is assigned a tier based on the test positivity and adjusted case rate. So on this criteria, there's 4 tiers, and they range from widespread, which is the worst, to minimal, which is the best. Our county continues to be in the widespread or purple zone, which means that many non-essential indoor businesses are still remaining closed. It also means that we have more than 7 daily new cases per 100,000 and more than 8% of positive tests. So once these metrics start to improve, we may be moved to the next tier of meaning that COVID-19 is slower spreading in our community. I also want to let everyone know that there's currently a request for proposals open for community outreach on COVID-19. This is through the Office of Community Affairs, and we're welcoming nonprofits and community organizations to apply. This is going to be for contracts of up to $20,000, and the number of contracts that will be awarded will depend on the number of applications received. So I think the total amount of funding is between $300,000 and $600,000. So any nonprofit organizations, community-based groups are welcome to apply. I have a link for more information to that request for proposals that I'll provide in the chat box. For a quick update on local wildfires, the CZU Lightning Complex fire as of 8:14 this morning was over 86,000 acres and 83% contained. So that's great that we keep seeing that containment number rise. Just this afternoon, Supervisor Don Horsley and County Manager Mike Callaghy hosted a fire update with Q&A on a Zoom call. I saw many members of the council present, so thank you for attending. And this also included CAL FIRE and Office of Emergency Services staff. I know there were a lot of questions posed in the chat, and I would just welcome if any additional questions come up, send them our way. We'd be happy to follow up on those. And lastly, I have an update from Quavo in the Department of Public Works, and that's on the progress of the Medio Bridge Detour. So currently, we've received the encroachment permit from Caltrans, and the contractor has ordered K-rails and crash cushions, which is equipment to facilitate the detour near the highway. Currently, we're waiting for the delivery of those materials before the work can start. So it looks like the lead time for those to arrive is about 14 days. So if everything stays on schedule, materials should arrive by the end of next week. And Qual let me know that they anticipate completion of the detour by the end of September or early October. Public Works definitely communicated a sense of urgency in getting this done as soon as possible, and they'll stay in touch with the contractor for status. There will be more updates to come with more specific dates on that. These are all the updates I have for the evening. I'd like to open it up to any questions. And of course, after my update, I have a bunch of resource links for different things that I mentioned tonight in the chat box. So thank you for listening.
Okay, one question from me and then we'll take other questions. For the COVID outreach, did you say that the total amount available for that effort is what is that number?
I think it was between $300,000 and $600,000.
So it's geared to multiple agencies throughout the county giving pieces of it as opposed to one large approach. Okay,
That's correct, because each contract is up to $20,000.
good. Okay, I think we have one question from Dan Haggerty. Hello, Dan.
Yeah, Greg was up first, but I can, since I'm here. Okay, so I have a question. Thank you, Carrie.
Sure.
Regarding the COVID situation and small businesses, many of the even before the COVID struck us, we're on just really thin financial lines, just kind of barely making it. My question is specifically regarding equity towards, you can see some examples around the county. I don't have any specifics in the coast side, but this idea just came to me. In San Mateo, sometimes they have closed, let's say, B Street, and they've put outside, sitting areas. I know in South San Francisco on Grand Avenue, they've recently put a lot of, they've taken away parking and created sitting areas out in the street. So my question is, have any of our local on the coast side, any local businesses have requested anything of that sort? And how does it, how does the county make it fair for all the small businesses?
That's a great question. I know one thing at the beginning of the pandemic that we were looking into was for restaurants, especially to get them outdoor seating space like you were describing, whether it was using up parking. Another area that we were looking at was if a restaurant is next to some sort of open space or land of some sort that could be used for outdoor seating. So I know there's been exploration of some of those options. But on the equity piece, I don't have a specific answer at this time. I know there's been a number of different assistance programs that have come up. But yeah, I'd be happy to research and get you a couple more specifics.
Thank you. Second question is regarding the wildfire. Tonight or earlier today, I requested that Supervisor Horley make a declaration that the eucalyptus trees are a fire hazard and that should be removed. Well, he was not able to do that, and I can understand, the officialness of that. Clearly, though, he has said that they are very dangerous. He was able to say that, and but what he did not say really is give good details on They said he was taking action, but did not give good details on what the plans are for Quarry Park. Now, he did say that there were, can't take them all out. They've been here for 100 years, but there's going to be something happen, and he didn't really give. Can you give any more details about what is the plan to thin out the fuel load of Quarry Park, specifically with the eucalyptus trees?
Excuse me for a minute on that, Carrie. I do want to point out to you, Dan, that the first item on the regular agenda is.
I know that. I'm just asking her right now. It was in her report. I just want to get it now, please.
Go ahead.
Allow.
Sure. So I know there's been a fire fuel reduction project in Quarry Park that we've discussed previously. I followed up with the Parks Department about getting, some sort of a work plan that they have for the next year. I haven't been able to obtain all of those details yet. Still working on that. But I do know since the original fuel reduction project, that the county Parks Department has set aside funds for, I think, the next 5 years to maintain those fire breaks. So I'm still following up on one thing we had talked about was the specific locations of those fire breaks, and then also looking at what is the work plan for upcoming maintenance.
Okay, and after 5 years, the trees are going to still drop and everything. So it really needs to be a long-term plan. So I'm very interested in that long-term plan.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Greg Degas?
Carrie, I want to be sure I heard something, and just to put it in context, the city of New York has a test positivity rate for COVID of less than 1%. The entire state of New York is under 5%. The entire state of California is just under 6%. Did you say our county was 8% test positivity rate?
That is the metric that the state of California is using for the widespread category, which San Mateo County is currently in. The test
Wow. Okay.
positivity is 8 or above. Yeah, Claire.
That is the category that we're in includes that as a cutoff point for test positivity. We are below that. We're at 5.7. But we're above the cutoff for case rate, which was what keeps us in the purple category. But we're doing acceptably well by state standards on the positivity rate.
Okay, thanks. I didn't catch that.
Okay, is that all, Greg? Okay, I do not see any other public officials here.
I'm here. Len, I'm here.
Oh, there you are, Harvey. Yes, Harvey, do go ahead.
Thanks.
You didn't show up.
Yeah, I had trouble getting in. This is Harvey Ryback speaking for the Half Moon Bay City Council. We had a couple of meetings yesterday that are related to Midcoast issues. The first meeting was the subcommittee of the city council that is tasked with dealing with public safety, policing issues, law enforcement. We had a very productive beginning meeting. We've already met with many subgroups on the coast side and the city that are talking about what policing issues are most relevant to them. Probably going to have a survey of what the community is interested in. This is a long-term process to actually develop new policies that deal with policing and public safety. It's complicated. We share the sheriff's the San Mateo Sheriff's Office with the Midcoast. So many of the things that relate to us also going to relate to policing locally here. So as I said, we're talking about a 10-month process or so before we are going to worry about our contract with the sheriff's office, but it's something that is certainly in the news. It's of relevance about equity issues, mental health issues. It covers a gamut of important matters that we're really concerned about. So this is the beginning of a, we hope, useful process. The other meeting yesterday was the Planning Commission considered the land use plan of our local coastal program, and that certainly has implications for the Midcoast. At the end of a rather long meeting, the Planning Commission voted 5-0 to certify that the next step in the process of approving the land use plan would go to the City Council on the 29th of September. That will be the first of a couple of meetings that the City Council is going to consider this land use plan before it goes to the Coastal Commission for certification. So that's an exciting development that certainly is going to have an effect on the Midcoast. So those were two important meetings yesterday, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that anybody has.
Thank you. Harvey, a couple of questions on the sheriff's office. Was within that, you're raising the consideration as to whether you may want to break off from coverage with the sheriff's office?
Frankly, that hasn't come up. But everything is on the table. There are 5 cities in the county that currently contract with the sheriff's office. We're talking about working with them to see if any changes to the contract make sense to be ordered through the 5 cities. Frankly, it's a bargain to have the sheriff's office do our policing compared to what we used to have our local police department. And I think in general terms, we're not considering breaking off that contract, but we may want to explore changing exactly how it's implemented and whether we can have responses for mental health issues, for example, that don't involve armed police officers coming. There's lots of things that we need to talk about, but I don't think we're going to end up not contracting with the sheriff's office.
So that gets you into, at least with part of the budget, seeing if you could take it to a different delivery source than the police or the sheriff's office in certain areas.
Say that again, Len?
Are you saying that in certain areas, rather than use the sheriff to perform a service, you might look for another agency to do that, which would be some shifting of funds?
That is a possibility, yes. It's very early in exploring what options we have, but nothing is really off the table yet. We really want to serve the community as well as we can.
So, and then on your comments on your LCP, you're sending that up for certification to your city council in pieces. So this was land use, let's say, separate from other parts?
Well, the land use plan is a really important part of the LCP. It's kind of the policy part, not the implementation, but the policy. And it's quite a big document. And so that document is what is going to be sent to the first the city council and then the coastal commission.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Dan, do you have a question?
Yes, Harvey, are you going to be sticking around for the fire portion of our agenda? I think it's the first item.
Yeah, I'll stick around. I also went to the Horsley Gallagher meeting that you were at earlier today, so I have some background already. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Harvey.
You're welcome.
I do not see anyone else here that would be speaking on this.
Yeah, there's somebody else, Len.
Who am I missing?
Ed
Ed Lorraine.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, if you could raise your hand. Ed,
Oh, also, Len, can you announce to everybody, there may be some new people, how to raise their hand?
will do. So right at this point, Dan's reminder, if you want to speak, and this would even include people who are scheduled to speak, you should raise your hand. For all of us, if you go to the chat breakout menu at the bottom left of that, I'm sorry, the participants menu at the very bottom is an opportunity to raise your hand. The flag is.
And for people dialing in,
That is, what is the number, Dave?
*6, if I remember.
*6 if you wish to speak. Okay,
thank you.
thank you, Dan. Okay, Edmundo?
Looks
You're
like
on
we may have
You're
lost him.
muted, Ed. You have to
We may have
unmute.
lost him.
No, he just has to unmute himself. There
Yeah,
he
there
goes.
you go. Sorry,
No problem.
wasn't paying attention. So I have a question for Harvey. One of the issues with the coastal plan is that it doesn't have the elements. There's 8 different elements that it needs to have, and one of them is about conservation. And I'm surprised that staff has left that out. And so can you comment on that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Not really, Ed. I wish I knew more. I believe that different aspects of conservation are incorporated in what we're doing, but let me get back to you.
Okay. Yep. Thanks.
Sure.
There are a number of conservation elements in the LUP scattered through various chapters.
Right, but well, we could talk about that at a different venue. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Now, seeing no other people, elected officials, etc., we're going to go to item 2. That's public comment. This is for items that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone here who wants to speak on a topic that's not on our agenda for this meeting? Brent Turner.
Hello, Council. My name is Brent Turner. I'm a citizen of Half Moon Bay. I just wanted to bring it to the Council's attention. I first contacted your folks right before the 4th of July. I spearheaded a citizens effort that was successful in closing down the beaches of Pacifica and Half Moon Bay. And we attempted that again on Labor Day, but we were unsuccessful as the City Council decided to leave the beaches open. I'm sure everybody's heard a lot of the stories. I have been speaking with some government agencies today, including parks, state parks, and just wanted to encourage the council to try to get in a groove here with some streamlining. Hopefully we won't be in that position of a 3-day weekend with a COVID spike upon us again. As we were on the 4th of July. This last weekend, it wasn't spiking necessarily, but I think the consensus was to try to avoid a spike. So if there's something that can be done by the council to really do some outreach and show some leadership, I think we're looking for leadership. The public is looking for leadership around the issue of the COVID crisis. There's some folks, I think, that are following more of the federal approach, which is just to sort of let the virus run its course. And I think here at the local level, if we don't have county support and we don't have state support, we need to really bear the burden ourselves and just show that leadership with the people, because the crisis is ever present. And I just don't think we have our arms around it enough. We really need to err on the side of caution. So any effort toward that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this
I
is,
have a question.
yes,
Fran
Fran,
Pollard,
go ahead.
Elkinata, or not a question. I have a request. I'm going to request MCC and I think all the other districts, including City of Half Moon Bay, to cut down on the meetings during this horrible time. We're worried about COVID-19, now the fires, this horrible weather we've had all day. There's a lot of anxiety going on with everybody. And I think all these meetings, I've worked, that I've been working on plans for decades now. So why is everybody trying to rush through plans this period when it's so difficult? Can't even get on these video meetings half the time. Tonight, I was successful. So I just want to request no more than one meeting a month. Tonight, there were 3 or 4 meetings this afternoon, tonight, tomorrow, you've got another meeting. It's ridiculous. And I'm requesting everybody, maybe the month of October, we have the most important election coming up in November. I think we all need to concentrate on that rather than all these other planning meetings and put them off until after the election. That's my request. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fran. Okay. Seeing no one else, this is a note to Nicholas Calderon, who has joined us. He's originally going to speak under officials, but I'm going to ask him just in a few minutes, Nicholas, we'll get to our item 4A, which relates to fire-related issues. So going on, I'm going to go to any announcements from people on the council other than that. Okay, seeing no announcements, we'll go to our consent agenda. We have one item, that's the minutes for the August 26th meeting. I'd like to entertain a request for a motion to approve.
I so move.
Moved. Do I have a second? Seconded, thank you. Okay.
Second.
What's that? Okay. I don't see any hands up with questions, so I'd like to go ahead and Claire, would you call the roll?
All in favor of approving the consent agenda, Len Erickson,
Yes.
Dan Haggerty,
Yes.
Barbara Mathewson,
Yes.
Dave Olson,
Yes.
Michelle Weil,
Yes.
and I vote yes, so it's 6-0.
Very good. Thank you, Fran. Okay, we're going to move ahead to our regular agenda.
Claire.
The first item on the agenda is coastside fire concerns. Based on the comments last week, especially regarding Quarry Park, which is directly in the Midcoast, I asked Nicholas Calderon to join us to give an update from his perspective on the fire breaks. So I'll ask him to speak now.
Len, before we speak, can I just want to make it clear that thank you for taking this on, but this is an agenda item that me and Barbara were going to put together. So we are expecting to have it up in the following meeting, and I just wanted to make sure that you expect that and that you're okay with that. Can you comment there?
I'm not sure what you were asking, Dan.
Well, Len, we were planning on having this agenda item, and all of a sudden you put it on your agenda. Last meeting, I asked for help and nobody spoke but Barbara. So all of a sudden this item is here tonight. I just wanted to be very clear that we want to have a similar agenda item following meeting, and I want to make sure that you're okay with that.
Oh, absolutely. I didn't get clear view that somebody was taking up a particular angle, and I did know there was interest in discussion. So I put it here under my name just so there could be open discussion to determine what particulars we might look at next. And to help inform that, I did ask Nicholas to join just for an update on Quarry Park, but you're certainly open to do more. That's what I expect.
Okay, and yeah, in the future, it'd be great if you could let me and Barbara know of something like this when we were planning on setting something up, and all of a sudden it's popped on the agenda. Thank you, Len.
Sure enough. Okay, Nicholas.
Yeah, thank you for having me tonight. I obviously know that this is a extremely important issue for everyone on the coast side, and I know that this has really been a much discussed issue over many years. Most certainly the almost decade that I've been working with the community, and um, and so I know that there have been some questions about the project. By way of background, the original project was almost a 100-acre fuel reduction project that consisted of a fuel break along El Granada Boulevard and then shaded fuel breaks throughout Quarry Park. And as part of our arrangement with Cal Fire, they financially they paid for the initial work, and we were going to be responsible for the maintenance. So we have, since the project finished earlier this year, continued to conduct the necessary maintenance work. In fact, our current contractor who's conducting much of that maintenance work, Go Native, was in the park as recently as the 28th of last month, so about 2 weeks ago. And so we're working on a strategy to ensure that we continue to maintain those shaded fuel breaks and that fuel break over the next 5 years so that we can really suppress the regrowth of much of that eucalyptus. For us, ensuring that CAL FIRE and other responders have reliable access points and clear ingress and egress is extremely important. We really understood the importance of that recently during the CZU lightning complex fires down on the border of San Mateo and Santa Cruz County and in Pescadero Creek County Park more specifically. And for us, making sure that the agencies and first responders had ingress and egress access, but also making sure that we had that fire line, which Old Hall Road served as, was extremely important. And that's one of the things that say the fuel break along El Granada Boulevard would do as well. So for us, maintaining that is obviously extremely important. We have set aside the financial resources to make sure that we can retreat those areas this year. And as we develop our budgets for future years, the first thing we look at for fuel reduction is how do we cover the cost of retreatment, and then whatever's left over we put into new projects. But one of the things that I think gets very challenging for land managing agencies is you want to treat new areas and reduce fuel in other areas, but you still have to continue to maintain what you've treated in the past, or that area is going to become overgrown, and that once valuable resource of that fuel break or that shaded fuel break no longer serves the purpose that it was cut for. And you're at that point back to where you were before you conducted that project. So it's extremely important to us that we maintain these facilities as they were designed. And as I've said, we've set aside the financial resources so that we can do so over the next couple of years. For the time being, in Quarry Park specifically, maintaining that fuel break and those shaded fuel breaks are where our focus is and our priority is, and we will continue to maintain those areas as necessary so that we can maintain that access.
Okay, thank you. First, I'd like to ask any of the council members who would like to ask a question to Nicholas to raise your hand first to see if anyone is in that category. Okay. Dave Olson.
Yeah, Nicholas, not on Quarry Park, but is there any plan to do fire related tree maintenance on some of the other coastside parks, such as the Bluff at Fitzgerald?
Not at this time. Obviously, the areas where our greatest focus are right now include Quarry, obviously Pescadero Creek. We're also focused heavily on Huddard and Wonderlick, as well as Edgewood and San Bruno Mountain, as well as San Pedro Valley. So we're obviously focused many of our areas, but for us, what we really need to be looking at are what type of vegetative communities present the greatest threat to nearby neighborhoods and communities, and then how do we treat those areas first and foremost? Fuel reduction, unfortunately, is an extremely expensive endeavor, and so we want to make sure that we are being as efficient and effective as possible with the resources that we're given. And frankly, we at the San Mateo County Parks Department have been extremely lucky in recent years with how the board and the county manager have funded the department, and we've been able to invest in our equipment. We've been able to replace many of our chainsaws and pull saws, purchased a masticator. Last year, we purchased a bulldozer, a new bulldozer, and all of those items were extremely helpful and effective in containing the CZU lightning complex fires. And so when obviously that's not going on, we're using those resources to maintain those shaded fuel breaks, cut those fuel breaks, and reduce the fire fuels and ladder fuels where possible. So we're really spending a lot of time and resources in prioritizing fuel reduction, and have over the last couple of years. In fact, I think we've done more fuel reduction in recent years than ever at the department, and we frankly plan on continuing that trend. And we did over 200 acres last year, and I plan on doing more this year and even more next year.
Okay. A question. So Go Native is your primary supplier for maintaining the fire breaks. Is that what you're saying?
Go Native is the one that we've selected and assigned to work at Quarry Park. We have multiple vegetation management contractors, and for that project, we felt that Go Native was the most appropriate. But there are many others that we could have assigned there, and there are other contractors that we'll assign to other projects.
So do you feel that the county was able to give you all the money you felt you needed for the activity, or because it's pretty tight times financially?
No, we were, like I said, the board and Supervisor Horsley in particular, but also the other supervisors and the county manager have been extremely generous and understanding of the needs of the department, and they've been really pushing us to do more fuel reduction and have been extremely supportive. So if you look in recent years, I would say the department has gotten what it needs to do that work, and it really comes down to the leadership at the top of the organization, starting with the board and the county manager, and it just goes all the way down through the department. And so it's really great that the department and the board and the county manager all have the same values around fuel reduction.
Okay, thank you. Dan Haggerty?
Thank you, Nicholas, for your presentation there. I do want to say, though, the fuel is the problem. We all know this. Today in the county meeting, I tried to get Supervisor Horsley to declare that the eucalyptus trees are a fire hazard, and that they should be removed. He was not able to do that, I guess, essentially making it official. He wasn't able to make it official, but he clearly said that the eucalyptus trees are dangerous regarding the fire. So that was clear. As far as I know, you're responsible for the Quarry Park. The concept of the ongoing maintenance, which I certainly appreciate. I wish you could go long on this whole concept early, not after 5 years. Right now, go long, please, because the whole concept of just picking up the branches that fall and keeping the fire lanes open, it's an ongoing maintenance cost that will just always be there. It's a lot like playing the whack-a-mole game. So I really would hope that you would start looking outside of the box, be vocal about it, talk to the community. Let us know. Let's start looking at, at concepts of, quick question. Would you be open to having a, start exploring the concept of having almost a mini industrial scale, compost, operation at Quarry Park, which would be over the years needed to, help start the new vegetation, take root, and, improve the soil conditions, because we know that the eucalyptus, does, cause problems with the soil conditions for other, appropriate, vegetation to start. Can you, answer if you're, open to exploring that concept?
Dan, I'm not, I guess I got a couple answers on it. One, it's not quite sure, I'm not quite sure what you're asking, and I'm not quite sure I have enough information to really make a.
Well, we're thinning out.
But I think what's more important, Dan, is I hear what you're saying about wanting. I was on the call earlier. I heard Supervisor Horsley's response. I thought it was an appropriate response, and I most certainly would never contradict anything that he said on that matter. And frankly, I agree with everything he said. But with regards to how we approach fuel reduction, the department, along with many other regional partners, have committed financial resources to a fine scale vegetation mapping project. And through that fine scale vegetation mapping, we will have a layer of data that shows us where are the greatest threats to the public. And keep in mind, we have 16,000 acres throughout the county. So we have to look at the data, and we have to look at the science and say, where's the greatest threat? And how do we come up with an approach based on science to best manage all 16,000 acres of our land? And that's how we'll really approach this, is looking at where the greatest threat is. How do we approach that? How do we keep our neighboring communities safe? And then also, how do we maintain it? Maintenance work is a lot more than just picking up fallen branches. Especially at Quarry, it consists of, essentially eradicating eucalyptus, which is not an easy endeavor, which is why we see eucalyptus everywhere throughout the region. So it's far more than just picking up down branches. But at the San Mateo County Parks Department, we thrive to use science and data-driven decision making so that we can best manage and steward our land. And that's what we do in other areas, and we'll definitely continue to do it in the field of fire safety and fuel reduction.
Well, I just want to remind you that the greatest fire threat to me is Quarry Park, and I'd like you to, for tonight, please.
Your time is up on this question.
No,
We're going to go to the rest of the agenda items.
Len, please.
No, I'm going to go to the next.
I will be short.
No, you've gone over time. You can come back on later. Thank you. Greg, you're up next.
Thanks, Len. I think some of you probably remember me speaking to the MCC in September 2018, where I registered concerns about fire preparedness. And then I conducted a survey of the fire hydrant pressure in CCWD and MWSD, and I found that they were testing less than 1% of the hydrants a year. There are somewhere between 1 and 2 dozen separate issues about fire preparedness that are, quote, hanging fire here. Evacuation, whether we have enough fire storage in Montera, the impact of dense new developments that's coming up. So we could spend hours discussing any single one of those. So instead, I would like to ask, first, I want to thank you for putting this on the agenda, and I want to ratify the need. But I also want to focus on us having a process that we understand that is going to surface the issues we faced and then track them and manage them going forward. I'm happy to submit a document. I'm happy to work with Barbara and Dan. I appreciate their interest. But I think we have to say, okay, how are we going to get a handle on all of these issues and who's going to watch it and how are we going to take care of this? So certify the need, I ratify the need, but I want to talk at some point. I want some understanding about what the process the MCC is going to follow to keep track of these things. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Claire?
Just a brief comment to Nicholas. I appreciate how complex your job is, and I also very much appreciate the fact that you are trying to look at things with a scientific and data-driven lens, because I think it's important for us not to lose that, because it can be an emotional issue. So I appreciate your reminding us that that's the best way to look, or at least a very good way to structure our thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, well, Nicholas, you were specifically coming to do that. And so I'm, unless you're welcome to stay for any open.
Len, I have a question for Nicholas, please.
I know, but you've had your question with him. We're going to go to an open discussion if you want to.
No, I wasn't finished with my question. Please, Len, don't squelch my discussion.
Well, if you go straight to a question for Nicholas, I'm fine. Just please ask.
Well, okay, yes. So, Nicholas, thank you. Listen, I may have, the real question is, what is the plan beyond maintenance? There's been a lot of talk today. Supervisor Horsley talked about thinning, but I didn't hear any specifics. Can you please respond to the specifics of the thinning? And we all understand we can't make major changes overnight, but you know, a process of thinning out over time. So can you respond to that, please?
Yeah, yeah. For me, it comes back to that fine scale vegetation mapping that we were talking about, so that I can understand where are the greatest threats. And without having that type of data and that type of information, we're not able to have a full picture of what needs to get done and how it needs to get done. So that's why I keep coming back to this tool, because it's going to inform us on what type of action we need to take. Until I have that, I can't really answer that question, aside from acknowledging that there are a lot of areas in the park system that need to be treated and need to be actively managed in a responsible way. And so for the time being, I just need to wait until I can get that map. Now, my understanding is I should be having that tool this month. And so I should be able to rely on that information shortly to answer a question like what you're asking.
And you have walked through Quarry Park, correct?
Well, Dan, I think I've walked through Quarry Park with you. Yeah, I mean, I've been through, you know, like I said, I've been working on Midcoast, as many of you know, for a decade now. And not only have I been through Quarry Park in my capacity as an aide for Supervisor Horsley, but I was through Quarry Park in my capacity as the assistant director and the director, and just as someone who likes to go out to the coast side to hike. So I've most certainly been through Quarry Park, and I've been along that fuel break on El Granado Boulevard, and I've seen a lot of those shaded fuel breaks we've installed throughout the park, which are going to add a huge benefit for CAL FIRE and any other first responder who should have to respond if there were an incident in there. And I'm very confident that the infrastructure we've put in there, whether it be the fire roads, the fuel breaks, the shaded fuel breaks, are going to serve the purpose that they were cut for. But once again, for the specifics that you're asking, I need to have more data to make an informed decision. And I just don't have that data right now, but we're in the middle of collecting that information. So once I have that information, I'd be happy to answer that question. You know, it's hard for me to give you an answer along the lines that you're looking for if I don't have the information to make an educated and informed decision.
One would think that with a walk through the park and a Google Map vision image, you know, it's data's there.
Yeah, Thank
So once again, once I have that data, I'll make a more informed decision. And I also appreciate the importance of this issue. This is an issue that I know is important to the Midcoast community and the coast side. And as a land manager, this is an extremely important issue for me as well. In order for us to be good land stewards and good neighbors, we need to be actively managing our properties. And we have started to do a lot of that. We've always done that, and we plan on doing more when it comes to fuel reduction. And like I said, as we collect this data, we're ready to make science-based decisions that benefit public safety, that benefit the environment, and that allow us to be the best stewards of our land that we can be.
Okay, I just don't want any stalling. It's clearly it's extreme fire risk as the CPUC map and the Cal Fire map. So it's, to me, the data's already there. It's time to take action.
Okay, thank you. Nicholas, thanks a lot for coming. I was only asking you to go for the fire breaks, and I know you knew there's a lot of interest in other topics, so I would expect we'll come back to you.
Wait, Lynn, can I ask a question of Nicholas? Fran Pollard?
Sure. Do you know how to raise your hand, Fran?
I thought I did.
Didn't see it up, but go ahead. No,
All right.
on the system.
Nicholas, thank you for coming and speaking, but I've suggested, I was at the fire meeting this afternoon too, and asked, I suggested that at least they need to take out the dead trees. I can see a few dead trees out my window that have been there for a couple of years at least now. So the dead trees, and maybe a lot of the trees that are close to the homes, even down below, not just up in the highlands, but down below, that are hanging over our homes that could fall. That was one of the things Supervisor Horsley said, that he's concerned with not only the fire, but the safety issue of those trees with limbs falling and trees falling. We don't want them falling on our house and have that disaster. So if that could be looked at, maybe we need to come and we all need to get together and check things out.
Yeah, Fran, to be clear, I also don't want that to happen. So we are most certainly in the same boat on that. What I can do is I can send Dan Krug, our arborist. I can send him up to take a look at those probably tomorrow. If not, what's tomorrow? Thursday? I can send him this week or next to take a look at those to see, if they are most certainly dead or dying, then we need to act accordingly. So I can have them do an assessment of that.
Great, thank you.
Of course.
Okay. Again, thanks, Nicholas. On this agenda item, I'm interested, as indicated on that, for what people would like to see done in the area of fire for further MCC actions. And so, Dan and Barb, if you've thought some about agendas on this or things you would like to do, could one of you share your thoughts?
Well, we're still going to have our agenda item, Glenn.
We're on the agenda item now. And I'm going through the council, and I'm interested in the council's thoughts on future MCC actions in this area. What would you like to see the take up? What kind of an agenda would you like to organize? Agenda item.
Okay, so this right now is not about our agenda item. It's not completely prepared. I'd like to stick on what we're talking. I have some questions for Harvey, and I have some more issues that I'd like to talk about.
Okay, well, so I'm interested in trying to know where you want to take it.
Okay.
Lynn, can I butt in a little bit? I think that this is going to be something that's going to be scattered throughout this year and probably next year. There's a laundry list of items that have come up about this, but I think the It seems like the most important ones seem to be evacuation, zone haven, the eucalyptus trees in Quarry Park, the eucalyptus trees at the north end of the tunnel in Lindemar, water. And right now, I guess tonight what we're doing is trying to listen to what the community is interested in so that we can more focus on what our agenda item is going to look like. I'm trying to get the zone haven presentation for the next meeting. But with the fire thing, it's kind of hard to pin them down, but that's one of the things that's going to be on our agenda item.
Well, so one of the concerns I have in terms of having people even come to this meeting is that we're still in active firefighting mode. There's some individuals.
That's why we can't commit to exactly who's going to be at the meeting to talk because of that.
But in terms of both, well, evacuation, eucalyptus, fire availability, I think you have to sort of break that down into one or two particular topics for any given agenda.
And
So
that's exactly what I just got through saying it was going to do. It was not something we could do in one meeting. It's going to have to be stretched out over many meetings. I'm sure there's a lot of things to talk about that we've seemed to just keep burying our head in the sand about, and people want to know how to get out of here if there's a major disaster. And from what I've learned from my CERT class and the seat meetings I go to, we're going to be pretty much on our own. We're not going to be able to depend on the sheriff or CAL FIRE. So we have to figure out what we're going to do. And this has all just kind of come up in the last couple of weeks where it's in our, this fire's in our backyard, and we're doing our best to see who we can get to come talk to us and what we can figure out.
I'd like to speak, Len.
I'd like to go to the other council members first, just to see if they have any thoughts on agendas in this area. Then we'll get back to you, Dan. So let's start first with Dave.
All right. The reason I had my hand up, by the way, is we have 2 emails on the subject that I'll read when we get to the public. But for myself, we have a huge range of agencies involved, even in the eucalyptus along Highway 1 above Pacifica. We have Caltrans and 5 different landowners that own the land that those eucalyptus trees are on both sides of the road.
And the Coastal Commission.
Well, the Coastal Commission has to approve things. They aren't a landowner. We have GGNRA here. They own a lot of the ridge lines where the eucalyptuses are. We have county parks. We have county DPW for the medians in El Granada and along the roads in Montera and Moss Beach. We have the Caltrans bypass lands that are not really managed by Caltrans, but they're still owned by Caltrans. So we have a huge number of agencies involved. So even getting the list of all the agencies involved is going to be a significant task. And I did want to mention, in case people had forgotten or people were not around when it happened, GGNRA did pay for trimming of and cutting of eucalyptus trees in the area near Clipper Ridge, as well as a few other areas. And Post had done some similar things before that land transferred to GGNRA. So stuff is happening. It may not be enough, but things are happening and have been happening in that area. So that's it for me.
Thanks, Dan. I know your hand isn't up, Michelle, but do you have comments in this area?
Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really important topic. Obviously, I think we all get a big scare with the fires just south of Pescadero, and I think it's something that we should evaluate, things that we should look into. I agree with Barbara that it's not just going to be one agenda item one night. Like there are a series of things that I think we need to evaluate. Obviously, what we're talking about tonight with the eucalyptus in El Granada, in Quarry Park. I would love to have a topic on just emergency preparedness in general, and how do we get out of here if we have a large fire. You know, I think the roads are going to be a major issue. Just to help the community prepare and get their minds ready for, like, you know, if and when that sort of situation would happen. I'd love to hear from the local fire chief. Love to have him at a future meeting to just discuss specifically what they're doing, and you know, what I would love to get the chief's thoughts on the risk, especially in El Granada. You know, I'm sure there are more things that I'm missing. I mean, I know CERT is a great local agency that is preparing people to help in case of a situation like that, any sort of major emergency. And I think it's just upon us to kind of connect the dots. Like Dave mentioned, there's so many different local agencies involved, but I think for us, bringing the representatives from the different agencies together at various meetings to just inform the public and just help us kind of get our heads around what we would do if this happened, if a major fire did strike this area. I think it's just really important to have that on future agendas.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Dan, you had a question related to fire you wanted to ask to Harvey?
Yeah, I have more than one question. So just Harvey, thank you real quick. I wanted to tell you that my mother lives up in Daly City at a condo complex, and there's recently had a bunch of eucalyptus trees removed, which have been living immediately right next to redwood trees for, they've been there about good 25 years at least. But I wanted to specifically talk to you, Harvey, about, you know, the Frenchman's Creek area where the eucalyptus grove that is in the city of Half Moon Bay. And I wanted to hear from you if, you know, I understand there's always the financial problems with cities and this and that, although I'm learning that grants are available, and KLX from RDC has talked a lot about that. But, you know, the evacuation routes, Frenchman's Creek is right there on the artery of Highway 1. And it's also a great fire hazard for your Frenchman Creek community. I wanted to just get a quick thought from you, as, you know, understanding the you know, the cost issues, but, you know, are you open to exploring reducing the fire hazard at Frenchman's Creek, specifically with the impact to the highway if there was a fire there, potentially closing the evacuation route?
Harvey?
The answer is yes. Who owns these trees? On what property are they located?
Well, they're up the. I'm not clear on. They're up the creek, along the creek, and then they're into the campground, and then the stretch between the campground and the highway.
That'd be state parks, wouldn't it?
It's Sweetwater, isn't it?
Well, I don't know you know, you gotta survey it and find out who owns what, but in general, I'm talking in general right now. You're open to exploring reducing the fire hazard in that area?
Yes, sure.
Great, thank you. And you know, I'd like to bring
Dan,
to
I'm gonna go to-
discussion.
Did you have another question for Harvey, Dan?
No, I asked my question to Harvey.
Okay, thanks. And I'm going to go to Claire.
Okay, first in relationship to what was just asked, that is, I believe, part of the Sweetwater campground property. At least it's part of that. And those particular trees are at this point somewhat sacred because they are habitat for monarch butterfly migration route. So that's an issue there. But in general, I think that Barbara makes a really good point that this is likely to be a topic that will be pursued in various different ways over the next year or so. I think that since as Dave says, it's so complicated, there are so many agencies involved, I don't think we can sit here and say we have a solution or even a question about an overall topic. I do think the role of the MCC is probably going to be in facilitating communication and planning among agencies and in representing the community as that happens. And I think that we, like last year, we spent a lot of time on emergency preparedness. And of course, there's a lot more to say. This year, we spent a lot of time on Connect the Coast side. I can see that the following year may go back to an emergency preparedness focus that'll just take a lot of most of the year looking at different aspects. That's what I think.
Okay. Thanks, Claire. Dave, you had another question?
No, just leaving the hand up for when we get to the public.
Okay. We're open to the public as well. I do not see any hands in the public there. I guess the question on this item, Barb and Dan, you've indicated an interest to move ahead. I think Barb indicated possibly focusing on Zone Haven first. So would you like to take on responsibility for developing an agenda for this area in one of our next two meetings?
Yeah,
Well,
we're
that's
gonna do
what
that.
we did at the last meeting.
Well, I didn't hear more from you, plus many other items and many other things came
What
up.
more do you want to hear from us if we're working on it?
So I just want to close out on that the two of you are good to work on
We're not-
something for our next meeting.
We're not closing the agenda yet.
Yeah, what more would you like to get on this agenda?
So,
I
So listen, I wanted to say that, from my experience, every time we reach out to agencies, some are, they're always responsive, but how they respond, they seem to sometimes everybody seems to lead into the whole financial problems, and then this is not new. This has been a discussion. Since 2011 or even further back. So I invite the idea of bringing some professionals in that aren't tied with the county or agencies to start conversations and educating the public what can be done and how things can be done. And I'm talking specifically about thinking outside the box. We understand that whatever is done, it's a far greater project than anybody can handle. It needs to get started, and we need to learn from the process of getting started. Please, Len, do not interrupt me. I'm almost finished. So, the idea is to start learning from professionals. I've talked to some professionals that have, this is not new to them, and this is not new to our area. This is going on all over the region. People are concerned with eucalyptus, and they're taking action in removing, and there's different methods. And so I want to start really providing education to the community so that the community can pretty much, know the options.
Okay. So I take it that you and Barb are ready to work together for an agenda for the next meeting.
Absolutely.
We have been.
No, but I did not hear from you directly. So look,
It hasn't happened yet. You gave us the date of the second meeting of September. I confirmed that with you while we were in the meeting. And that's what we're working on. So I don't know what you expected to hear from us more when the meeting is still 2 away. there's insurance. There's no way we're going to be able to um, make a solution for this.
Yeah.
We are the voice. We're trying to hear what the community has to say, and still an evacuation plan. That's been something that I've been asking for over 3 years. And okay, maybe a lot of people own the land at the end of the tunnel. I want to know, how are we going to get out of here?
Okay.
And nobody, all it is passing the buck. CAL FIRE passes it off to the Coastal Commission. The county passes it off to CAL FIRE. Nobody wants to own it. And meanwhile, what are we supposed to do? Where are we supposed to go? Are we going to all go on Montero Beach? Are we all going to go stand at the airport? Somebody needs to tell us what to do. And that's what Dan and I and Greg are trying to do. And I feel like you're trying to stop us.
No, not at all.
So,
Not at all.
and if you knew this was our agenda item for the next meeting, which you gave us the date for, and then you put it on the agenda, it feels like you're pulling the rug out from under us. And that's all I have to say.
The reason I put this there is we were having an hour discussion by the county directly ahead of this, and other people were coming in with requests. So I put it there so people could just speak to the issue. I'm glad to hear that you're organizing a session for our next meeting. And you clearly have your work to do to bring it to a focus on. Each of you seems to have a slightly different point, but I'm happy to work with you.
And Len, I just want to remind everyone on this meeting that according to the CPUC, our area is in an extreme elevated fire risk, also with the CAL FIRE map. So there's really no scratch in our head that we are not in extreme danger. We all know, most of us know that. And so we're really being proactive and coming up with plans. Everybody understands that the financial situation is an issue, but we have to. Hey, with these lightning strikes, literally, I was extremely scared. I couldn't sleep. It was a couple weeks ago when the dry lightning was proposed or forecasted, and you should be equally concerned with this, Len. And I want to see some more openness to be proactive as a community. And we are the Midcoast Community Council. We are all volunteering our time to represent the best interests of the complete community. And really that also includes people outside the community. But for right now, I'm concerned with my house. I'm concerned with my own homeowner's insurance, fire insurance, not being dropped. This is a serious issue that I'm taking on right now personally. Okay, there's a lot of people in the community as well. So, we need to have, almost this topic on every meeting.
Okay, I accept its seriousness. I'm looking for you and Barbara. And did you want Greg to join you if he has time?
Greg's working with us.
Very
Wait,
good.
he already planned all this at the last meeting.
I put it here.
You were there.
I know. But I had an open discussion. We had the supervisor as well as the county manager speaking to us. Other people have come in, so.
I'd like to hear from some people that have their hands up.
We have Anne with her hand up.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I agree with Dan and Barbara. This is extremely important, and this should not be just pushed aside and say it's somebody else's problem because somebody owns the land or doesn't own the land. I mean, these are people's lives at stake, and I don't know what money you can put on that price. I mean, there's no price tag you can put on for human life, and we need to have plans in place, and like Barbara says, an evacuation plan that will be functional I mean, it's important rather than I've been to these meetings where the county officials come in, even the state came in, and they basically said, "Oh, don't worry about it. It'll all get coordinated." Well, that doesn't make me feel comfortable. When is it going to get coordinated? What are we supposed to do? What is the public supposed to do? You don't even know where to go. I wouldn't know what direction to go. And I think it's important that not only we plan it, but we even have drills on the coast to help people in different situations. Just
to concur with the issues with the wildfire is related to emergency preparedness, and I concur. There's a lot of aspects to it. It's not just one issue that could be done one day. For example, there are related issues such as power outages, and that can't just be resolved by just one simple tweet by public officials saying, "Oh, we got to turn off the lights at 3 p.m." No, it's very complex, and we need to discuss all manners of preparedness for different emergencies that relate to wildfire. There's compounded effects and other related problems to not just the wildfire itself and evacuation, but there's all kinds of different issues that we must discuss about. So that's what I have.
Thanks, Brandon. Next, Crystalline.
There, and it was mentioned a little bit earlier, but I just wanted to reiterate to the past caller who mentioned in the case of emergency, just not being super clear on like where to go and all that. There is a nonprofit called Coastside CERT, and I'll put their website in the chat. And they cover the Midcoast, and they help residents figure those things out, and they have a very solid plan that they work on, and they do drills and all kinds of good stuff. So if anybody is interested in that, and Barbara mentioned it earlier, and I think she's a very active participant in that, that they might want to check that out to learn how to use walkie-talkies so you can hear the information and all that good stuff. Thank you.
Great.
Just to
Thanks
be
for-
clear on that, CERT does not have an evacuation plan. They just have a community, your neighborhood plan. But as far as an evacuation plan, CERT doesn't have that.
Okay. Let's see, Claire, did you have a further comment?
No.
No, you're good. Okay, Greg?
I thought Lucy Wicks, if I remember her name right, made some
emails to the council, some CC to various people in the county, all with similar sentiments. But I think these two emails will capture it, and I think they're matching what a lot of other people have said. The first is from William Lyons of El Granada, and these are trimmed down to fit. He's concerned about the fire threat from the eucalyptus in particular, supports government action to address the problem, and it's even more urgent now with climate change. He is also concerned that eucalyptus crowds out the native trees. He thinks it's really important to get a government program started to manage the eucalyptus, and he particularly wants to have the county relax the rules relating to removal or trimming of eucalyptus. He mentioned that he thought the eucalyptus were protected by ordinance, and I will interject here to say that no, the eucalyptus are not protected by ordinance. They are not regarded as heritage trees or anything else. It's a fairly simple tree permit to remove the eucalyptus, but it is a permit. The second email was from Keith Mangold. He's concerned about the size and number of fires in California and Oregon and the lack of resources to combat the fires. We have more than a square mile of eucalyptus trees next door. In crown fires in Australia, eucalyptus trees are capable of spreading burning embers for more than 2 miles. He's concerned that if there is a crown fire in El Granada, especially in high winds, such as we sometimes get from the east, that the fire would spread very rapidly, and it would be very hard for the local fire departments to maintain safe evacuation routes. Containing the fire would be impossible, endangering 250 residences. At a minimum, we need action from the county and state to clear out substantial fire breaks through Quarry Park. Starting immediately, any discretionary or emergency funding should be applied to this fire hazard reduction project. And of course, as we heard from Nicholas earlier, there are a number of fire breaks already from the last year in Quarry Park. That's it.
Great. Thanks, Dave. Okay, I was looking for input from the community, additional government people on this, and so I'm leaving it now to Barb and Dan from the council itself. I'll be in touch with them to support their work, and then at least 1 or 2 active volunteers from the community to work with them. So with
I'd
that,
just like to say one thing just to follow up. This council has spent a lot of time this year on Connect the Coast Side, and I'd like to see some energy. That is just a plan, nothing specific, it's a plan. We need a plan on how to get out of here. And so we need to really, I think, refocus. And although I've just got a few meetings left, whoever takes my place and sits on this council, needs to make this a priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb.
There's a hand up in the,
I see it. Keith Mangold.
Hi. One of the things that was just discussed was the basically doing the fire breaks. The problem with the fire breaks is there now exists if they wouldn't address the crown fire because they're not taking mature trees. So they're stopping potentially a ground fire.
Excuse me for a minute.
But not a crown fire.
You just hold on. We're getting a second feedback from you. Are you using a speakerphone?
I think I just fixed it. I muted a phone number. Unless that was the one that Keith was speaking on. I was seeing it coming from both. Keith, can you still speak?
We try it again?
Yes, please.
Okay, the current fire breaks are only addressing less than mature trees and cleaning up the debris on the ground. They have done nothing in terms of a crown fire. And the crown fire is what's going to destroy the whole town. The other smaller fires, I think, could be fought, but not a crown fire.
And just to be clear in terms of terms, a crown fire, you're talking about one that really goes through the top parts of the tree and can move very fast from tree to tree?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Keith. Okay. Our next item, going to 4B, various connections and communications with Caltrans. So first off, and I'm going to go to Dave Olson, who was looking at the information signs, which have been brought forward. There is going to be a Caltrans run virtual open house for this topic tomorrow afternoon, starting at 5:30. So Dave, I'll turn it over to you to share what you have.
Okay, so you want me to share the letter first?
Please, yeah.
Okay, let me make sure I've got that up. Sorry. Not that one. All right. Oh, come on. Sorry, Zoom is not wanting to share. Had this problem twice this week.
What are you trying to share, Dave? Maybe I can pull it up.
It's the letter. The problem is that Zoom does not want to show. Well, we'll just share the whole desktop.
It looks like it's up now.
Yeah, I just need to do this. Okay. So this is a letter addressing the proposed negative declaration from Caltrans regarding the installation of message signs and Also, fast track readers and a few related maintenance items. When I looked through this and after discussing it with Len, didn't have any real concerns about anything. We discussed this very briefly at our last meeting. The issue is that in the negative declaration, they describe the message signs as 5 by 12 feet mounted on wooden poles next to the road, but they gave no pictures of the signs. So it makes it rather hard to comment on them. We don't know how bright they are. And then there's the other issue, as many of you are aware, on the freeway signs, which are similar but larger. The original statement was they would never be used except in emergency situations, Amber Alerts, things like that. But in fact, they're used quite frequently to put up rather inane messages which distract drivers. And here on the Midcoast, that means that if they light them up at night, they will bother people. So I wrote this letter on those two themes. We did receive today some renderings, not actual photos of those signs, and I'll show those in a minute, but I want to make sure that everybody had had a chance to see this letter because it did not make it onto our website ahead of the meeting. And I will say it will also be in the video recording, obviously, as well. Does anybody have clarifying questions on the letter?
I think
Yes,
since we're participating, or since we're presenting a letter that we haven't had a chance to see prior to the meeting, I think it should be read aloud.
I can do that. All right. The Midcoast Community Council, the elected advisory council for the San Mateo County Midcoast area, has concerns about the signs planned for the Midcoast area as described in this project. For the other parts of the project, we have no issues to raise at this time. The proposed negative declaration for project ID 417-00000040 does not give adequate information about the proposed lighted message signs. There are no detailed descriptions, no pictures, no description of how bright the signs will be, no indication of height above ground, and most importantly, how frequently the signs will be used or lit. The only description given is the size of 5 by 12 feet and that the signs will be on wooden posts. In chapter 2, the document says, and I quote 2 paragraphs here, there are 2 locations, locations 5 and 6. These are the ones that are in the Midcoast, near Capistrano and just south of the Farmer's Daughter, where the proposed message signs and metal beam guardrail would constitute new elements in areas relatively free of such roadside features. While noticeable, the signs and MGS, that's the guardrail, should not substantially degrade the visual character and quality or affect viewers' ability to see rural landscape beyond. The project will not create a new source of substantial light or glare. And then back to the letter, our community is quite concerned about light pollution and dark sky issues, and several of these signs are either in or adjacent to residential areas. In the past, various VMS signs on freeways have been installed with promises that they will rarely be used, but over time are used almost all the time to display general information that is not related to the current route and often distracts drivers.
Thank you.
Okay. So then there are these pictures, and I'm not sure what's going to happen when I try and show them, given that I just had that problem with sharing.
Quick question. What's the purpose of this agenda item now?
The deadline for commenting on the negative declaration is next Tuesday. So we're seeing whether it's worth our while to comment. The public information session is not being held until tomorrow, Thursday. So we sort of put in sort of a tight spot there. I think the major question that that it raises is the appearance of the signs as whether.
It's beyond that, more than just the signs. So, I've already take issue on part of the letter. I think we should just be general and say that we, as a Midcoast Community Council, have concerns with the project, and we will be addressing them as the details come in, because it's a little premature. We do not have all the details, and I don't even have a hard copy or anything to look at.
Okay.
All right.
Not enough. Just one picture.
I'm getting there. Okay, so this is a rendering of the one that would be down near James Ford. Oh, come on.
All unnecessary.
This looks comparable to the thing that's up near the farmer's daughter now that used to stay with the slide was closed.
Yeah. That's still there.
Yeah. Slide's not closed.
No.
I am having all kinds of problems today.
People get all this information off their phone, so it's just completely unnecessary.
This
Waste of tax dollars.
If people are driving, they're not getting it off their phone.
Well, you're supposed to know your route before you leave.
Unless there's
You can always,
emergency information.
Well, this is lovely. Sorry. These all looked fine earlier.
Well, your hair looks great.
That's good. I'm glad something is good. I did get a haircut last week. So, and then this is the approximately 5 by 11 foot sign that's trailer mounted up by Virginia and Moss Beach. So presumably 5 by 12, it would be similar to this size.
every time Caltrans puts a sign like this out, I think it costs the taxpayers about $1,200 a month. Sometimes they leave them out for months when there's no construction going on.
How do we want to structure this discussion, Len?
Well, because we're short of information here, there was another a concern that Dave and I had when we looked at the picture he showed, is it would appear that that rendering was that was a sign that was probably about 6 feet wide, 5 or 6 feet wide, but they're saying that the signs would be 12 feet, 10 or 12 feet wide. So we were trying to show the difference between those, which is, I think, considerable. And the question is size an important feature? Is it those two, do we want the signs at all? And, you know, because they could not either present at this meeting or show it before it, we've been a little handicapped in terms of how to comment on it.
Would you like to have a motion on approving
guess-
the letter so that we can have a formal discussion?
Well, the question is whether the first, just a discussion as to whether we want to comment on a letter currently or wait until after the presentation is done, which either we would have to do in a special meeting or defer it to after the neg deck and just ask them to accept the submission. So that's what we're left with on this item.
So how would you like to address this?
Well, from just what we've shown here, do people have an interest in commenting at all on this?
I think we should comment that the neg deck is just inappropriate for them to. There is so much impact involved with this project. For them to claim that a neg deck is appropriate is absurd. So we should challenge the neg deck as a council. Let's leave it at that.
Well, does that mean attend their session tomorrow to get more informed with what they say, or just leave it at what you just said?
You asking if I have an opinion that the whole MCC officially attends? I'm going to be attending anyway. I don't know.
The question I guess
Never
I'd
heard
like,
of
here's, thanks for asking. The question I'd like to hear from the council, and let's just go down, is whether, based on the fact they're going to have a session tomorrow, would we basically prefer not to approve any type of a comment letter today, go to the session tomorrow, and then determine whether we want to put it on a future agenda or not? I mean, that's basically the situation we're looking at.
I say we just challenge. Sorry, go ahead.
I like your last idea. Do nothing, see what happens tomorrow, and then make it a future agenda item.
Well, it would have to be a special meeting to be before the comment deadline.
There's two parts of this. I mean, we can also go back and say we can't. We would like to have you extend your deadline because we don't believe you've given us sufficient information yet. Or we could have a special meeting on next Monday to consider the item. So would you rather do nothing and pass on the neg deck, come to a comment now, or consider having a special meeting next Monday?
Challenge
Can
the
I ask
neg
a
deck
question
now.
first?
Sure.
I cannot find any record of that meeting for tomorrow or the agenda.
It's up on
where is-
there's a blog post, and in the
Okay.
in the email that went out on the agenda, there's a link there.
Okay,
Posted
I'll
it
take a
next
look.
door.
Yeah, I just
evening.
want to better understand if the meeting tomorrow is going to go any further than what's already in that very long report that they prepared.
We believe they'll show some visuals about it. Dave gave a sample of one, and we're still trying to determine whether we think it's an accurate representation of the size that they're proposing. But that'd be a question we can ask there.
Well, for me, I would rather make a comment now if we're going to make a comment, rather than hold a special meeting just for that. I think we have a pretty good idea of what's being proposed. Understand that we don't have like the specific images or, very fine details, but I would vote for at least considering this letter.
Okay. I tell you what, why don't you make a motion to approve the letter? We can then consider it, make amendments if we want to, or table it.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to consider the letter, or
Would
to
you get a
approve the
second?
letter.
Okay. Take a second.
I'll second.
Okay, so I'm going to go down and just ask whether anyone is interested in waiting until Monday to make a comment.
That's not the right question.
Well, in terms of deciding whether to vote on this is just to get a feeling of what people would like to know to make the decision. Go ahead, Claire. What is it you want to?
I must remind you of Fran. I don't know.
I
Fran.
must have. No, you don't. You're a good person though.
So, I'm not going to vote for this letter because it just showed up like 10 minutes before this meeting started. I was sitting here trying to try to go back through the Caltrans proposal to see how it related to the letter, and I didn't even have time to do that because the meeting started.
Okay.
That's really unacceptable, and I'm not going to vote for it.
Okay.
It's also, I'm also confused about what this meeting tomorrow is, if it's about this traffic improvement plan or if it's about the crosswalks that they also wanted to talk with us.
No, this is about the traffic signs.
So what happened to the meeting about the crosswalks?
We'll give you a quick update as the next item in this agenda.
Well,
There's no more crosswalk meetings in the near term, but we can give a little bit further discussion.
So Len, that's not quite accurate. The public meeting that Caltrans called for the Murata Road crosswalk will still occur if Caltrans decides to go ahead, but it's in the indefinite future.
I understand that. But I just wanted to close on this item first.
There's hands up, community.
Yeah, and I'm still talking. So what do you know?
Good.
You said you weren't going to vote on it, so
I'm
what
not
more
going
do you
to
have
vote
to-
for it.
Let
I
him finish,
can
Dan.
vote on it if you like, but I'm not going to vote for it.
Okay, thank you.
You can say more, but we're not, I guess I'm being dismissed, so go on.
No, you're not. What more do you want to
Go
say?
ahead. Move on, Len, that's fine.
Barb, what was your position?
I completely 100% agree with Claire. And I
Okay.
will not vote for it. I got it 4 minutes before the meeting. That's unacceptable. It's against the Brown Act too.
Okay. So, Michelle?
Yeah, I do take issue with the lateness of the letter. And like I said, it's a tough situation because if comments are due on the 14th, then this is pretty much our only opportunity outside of holding a separate meeting, special meeting for this. I've gone through a lot of the report. I haven't read every detail because it's over 100 pages, but I did read the sections. I feel like I have a fairly good understanding of what is being proposed. And yeah, it's really hard for me. I can't, the fact that the letter, I can't even refer back to the letter during this meeting since it's, unless it's up on the screen, it's really tough. So I just don't feel like I can vote on it.
Okay.
Or vote for it.
Dan?
Yeah, usually you don't want me to talk. I've already made my comments, and I'm very interested in hearing the community speak.
Okay. Let's see. So in the community, we have Crystalline.
Hi. I just based off of those pictures, those signs are hideous. I don't have a thought necessarily about the letter other than if it was myself, I would write a letter saying, stop it. Caltrans already has a terrible reputation for keeping up their signs. They can't even keep up the printed signs. So I don't think lighted signs are going to be kept up well, let alone the light pollution and things to that nature. And it really just doesn't fit the vibe of the town. We're not like Palo Alto or one of those other areas that they have those types of signs because, there's the commuters that, might be caught in traffic at the different times. And, traffic is an issue here, but I don't think in quite the same way. We all know what the traffic is. We just don't like it. So as somebody who lives in the Miramar area, I would not want to see those signs on a daily basis. So thank you.
Okay. Chris Johnson.
Thanks, Len. So I agree with the council members who have spoken so far. You can't vote to approve this letter. I don't know what the letter says either. I know Dave read it, but I don't have it in front of me. I can't even really say whether I support it or not, except in the sense of I definitely hope that the MCC will question this at some time in the future, maybe at tomorrow's meeting. You can't vote on this letter today. If you were to vote on it, I would hope you would vote to approve the letter, which is critical of these signs, because as Crystalline said, they are horrible. And Dan said as well, and other people said. I do feel, unfortunately, that by the time this meeting rolls around tomorrow, and probably already, it's too late. A letter from the MCC in 2 weeks or a week after this meeting tomorrow that ship has sailed. And so I guess what I'm asking the MCC is either come up with some kind of statement, a one-sentence statement you can make on behalf of the MCC and the community tomorrow to Caltrans face, or a demand for some answers. What is the genesis for the need for these signs all of a sudden? And all of a sudden, why do we need these signs? Why do we need permanent fixed signs? Permanent fixed signs. That doesn't make any sense to me. As people have mentioned, they can't even take care of the mobile signs they have. The second a couple of bulbs go out in these fixed signs, they'll be out forever. And then we're just going to have these fixed structures there that have half of the words. So I think it's a ridiculous proposal by Caltrans that I just don't understand. And I guess as part of my statement, I want the county to say something like, until Caltrans gets the use permit that they've been asked to provide or to get for the crosswalk in Moss Beach, heck no, they shouldn't be building anything else, any other permanent structures. They have already broken the law and their own policies with that crosswalk in Moss Beach. They still haven't provided a use permit as requested by Supervisor Horsley and the Board of Supervisors. So I don't understand what they think they're doing. And I thought, as somebody else mentioned, tomorrow's meeting, which was supposed to be last week, was about the magical crosswalk that it's going to appear in Miramar, that now probably is just going to appear because they're not going to have this meeting because they know what they're going to get. So maybe somebody could call Assemblyman Mullen's office and see if we can get them to hold off on these electronic signs. It's terrible. Oh, one last thing. Thank you for giving me the time. I appreciate it. One last thing. I don't understand. Are these signs new that they're proposing in terms of a whole new design? Why don't they have a picture of it? Why don't they have specs of these signs that are detailed specs? Are they going to get this approved and then have the signs made, custom made after this? They can't give us any detailed specs. And the renderings, I'm sorry, don't look like any Caltrans signs I've ever seen anywhere. So I don't believe the renderings look really small compared to the electronic, some mobile ones that are out there now. Those renderings are useless to me. I don't believe they're accurate, and it's just further undermines my confidence in the credibility of Caltrans. And I think I would, as a member of the community, I need the MCC to make some kind of comment to that effect tomorrow. I know you can't, I know you won't, but it's too much. It's the straw that's breaking my back right now, because we still have people clapping themselves on the back about the Medio Bridge detour, which we heard today, still going to be at least 2 weeks till anything happens there. It is ridiculous, and I'm fed up with Caltrans, and somebody needs to do something besides just saying, can you give us a use permit and wait 6 months while Caltrans thumbs their nose at us? Thanks for the opportunity to speak. Good luck, council.
I just wanted to add that I did ask Caltrans for specifics and I got zero response.
Okay. Next up is Greg.
Well, I appreciate the letter and I support the comments that both are in the letter and that the community is making. And I certainly don't want to break Chris Johnson's back. I'm wondering, can I, just as a member of the public, write Caltrans and protest the negative declaration? Can you send me a copy of your draft letter and I'll plagiarize from it just as a member of the community to make sure somebody says something in writing to try and stop them? Isn't that the goal?
Anybody can comment.
Yeah, it's open for.
Can I have a copy of your letter? You've done some good research. I'd love to piggyback.
I will mail it to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
It'll be posted after this. Claire?
I wanted to respond to something that Chris said and add something to it. What I want to add to it is since we do have an encroachment permit now given to the county, I don't see why the county couldn't come out and at least put up some small signs saying pedestrians and roadway while they're waiting for the actual construction to be done. And maybe that could be suggested to them. But in terms of why the signs are being put up, I do think they're congruent with what we asked them for last year. If you remember, when the tunnel was closed, there were two things that we wanted them to have done. One was for them to know what was going on out here. And the other was to find a way to notify people if there was some out of the ordinary event. And the sensors they're putting in the road will allow them to know what's going on out here. And the signs, at least in theory, will allow us to be notified of emergency thing. The question to me is, are these the right kind of signs? What exactly do we need for notification of emergency conditions? But I think the signs in themselves are actually in response to something we asked for.
Okay, thank you, Claire. Michelle?
I think a lot of great points have been made. I really like
Michelle Dragon.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Michelle. Claire, really great points. So What about SMC Alert? We actually have a very large percentage of people on the coast side that are signed up with SMC Alert relative to the rest of the county. And that's because of the CERT push and things like that. If we were to have some kind of social media notifications to people that are outside of the coast side as they were to come through, then they would also have those notifications. But if we could get people that are actually on the coast side to sign up at, like 75% of the people know what to do in an emergency, I think that would be more to the point. Because if they were coming, from outside commuting, which nobody does anymore very much, but if they were, they would at least get notifications that they were coming over 92 and Highway 1. I think that's how SMC alerts are being triggered by your phone number or by your email. And that's a low cost. It's really more of a social media push rather than a physical construction push. That's my suggestion.
Thank you.
Hey, quick question, Michelle. Do you have the percentage of people on the coast who are signed up for SMC Alert? Because last year when we were looking into this after the tunnel closure, it was pretty low. Do you happen to have that? Sounds like you have some data.
I don't.
Oh,
but I can find
okay.
out. I can find out.
Okay, yeah. I'd love to hear it. We can email offline and try to figure that out. I'd love
Perfect.
to know.
That's a good metric to have.
Thank you. Marcia Yates.
Yes, hi. Just have to say that I think the signs would be hideous, and I do have to agree with Chris on his major points. But I think the community really needs to chime in on this because we'll be getting these ginormous signs, and like they said, they're not well kept, and and it doesn't go with our community structure. So yes, we do need some kind of notification, but I don't think ginormous signs would be the right answer.
Thank you. Edmundo? Edmundo, are you on?
Sorry. Thanks for letting me speak. I appreciate it. There were a lot of thoughtful comments on why not to have Caltrans put these signs up. I agree with all of them. This is another example of Caltrans running roughshod over the coast, doing what they want without any clear message from the community. I'd like to point out a couple things. One is, it's very important for those of you that don't want these signs or have issues with them to contact Caltrans and make your case. That's super important. And the other is that if they continue to go through the process, Caltrans will have to get a coastal development permit for this from the Coastal Commission. So that'll be another avenue for people to stop it. And it's a long process, but it's really important to keep an eye on it. And if you want to leave yourself an opportunity for speaking at the Coastal Commission, you have to make sure that you speak at the different levels of local government, because if you don't, you won't have a seat at the table. So that's really important. So once again, I would encourage you all to contact Caltrans. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else with their hands up. So I guess, I think from what I hear,
And I have my hand up. I've had it up about 20 times.
I don't see a hand up here. I'm sorry. But
It's up.
Yeah, it's been up and then taken down about 20 times.
That's the clapping one, not the raised hand, but that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Chris. I live in Moss Beach, and I agree with what Chris Johnson said to a large extent. And I just think that this is antiquated technology. I agree that people use Waze or similar apps to figure out what traffic congestion looks like when they're leaving their home or they're traveling. They don't need these ridiculous antiquated signs to tell them what's going on. They don't belong here. They're inconsistent with the vibe of the coast side. And I really think it's important for the MCC to weigh in on this issue. I think that, I hope that you guys will come to an agreement on some language tonight and not push this off to a future meeting. I think that there, at least you can come to some agreement on some language pushing back on this project. Thanks for your time.
I suggest challenging the neg deck in general.
Well, I think that's separate from whether we want to respond to it. Unless, so right now I feel that we have several members who, because the letter hasn't gone out in a timely fashion, are not willing to vote for it, independent of its merits, either positive or negative. And there is the information briefing through their open house is going to go out on Thursday. Would the council consider, so I guess I'd like a straw poll, or just go back through the council to say whether you would be open to having a one topic only special meeting on Monday to consider a letter. That would be called at 7 and have just the one issue of addressing the letter. So I'd like to just poll people on that. Barb, go with first.
Yeah, fine.
Thank you. Claire? Claire?
On mute.
She'll get there.
Just as well. If we had a meeting, I would probably arrange things to be able to come. I do not want to have a meeting.
But you'd have it. Okay, Michelle?
I could probably make that work.
Thank you. Dave?
I have a conflict.
Dan?
I'll do it. I don't want to. I think we can do something tonight with just a general challenge to the neg deck.
Okay, so, and I would make it, so I think we have a quorum who can attend. Dan, basically, I think is just to write a letter to challenge the neg deck. Is that roughly what you'd like to do, or just an informal communication on that? I mean, the only thing else I see we can do is I can contact them to ask for an extension on the neg deck for reasons we've discussed here, which might not work.
So can I interrupt? I
Sure.
want to be really clear, this is not a neg deck. This is a proposed neg deck. It has not reached the stage of being a neg deck yet.
So they're looking for qualitative comments on it as a neg deck document.
Yes,
So we could comment on the proposal of the neg deck.
we can.
Okay. And we can do it tonight.
What's that?
Yeah, can I ask why, Chris Johnson suggested that we could make a comment at the meeting as the MCC tomorrow. Is there a reason that we couldn't do that? Like, what would it take just from a process perspective to be able to make that comment as a council as a whole?
Well, if you tried to do that at the meeting, you'd have to declare it as a special meeting of some type. I mean, otherwise,
We couldn't decide tonight that we agree on a specific statement that was read tomorrow?
We could make a motion to designate one person to speak officially on behalf of the MCC. But they're going to have to obviously have some guidance, and then they'll have to be somewhat flexible based on whatever happens at the meeting.
Yeah, so we could approve a series of bullet points or a short statement, something that we all agree on tonight that be read tomorrow by one member.
You could.
Okay.
Or could be represented by the one member. Wouldn't have to be read. That's not a bad idea.
Okay. So, I mean, as chair, I'm planning to go to it. I would be happy to do that if they want to assemble a set of talking points to basically state at the meeting. And then leave the comment on the neg deck aside.
I like that idea.
I'll just go down again. Barb, what do you feel about that idea?
That works for me.
Claire?
I think that's a good solution. I also think that we're not actually asking for anything except information at this point.
Mhm. Okay. So let's, so what are Michelle, having brought up the idea, what are the key bullets you'd like to bring forward?
Wait a minute, I've got to say, we still have a motion that's been
Ah.
seconded on the table. We need to either vote on that or people need to withdraw the motion.
Or it could be tabled.
Well, tabling doesn't make any sense.
Okay. Well, then let's vote on it. Is everybody good, ready to vote?
Okay.
Go ahead and call.
Okay. So we're voting on whether to approve the letter as written.
Yes.
Len,
No.
Dan,
No.
Barbara,
No.
Dave,
No.
Michelle.
No.
I vote no. It's 6-0 to not approve the letter.
Okay. So let's put forward talking points to bring up at the meeting tomorrow.
Looks like Chris Johnson has kindly posted a statement in the chat that I'll go ahead and read it out loud, and we can talk about it. The MCC strongly opposes the installation of the permanent lighted signs currently proposed for the Midcoast. The council further requests that a representative of Caltrans come to the next MCC meeting to provide a detailed description of the signs and the installation plan. Shall we discuss?
So let's make a motion on that one.
I'll move we accept the, what do I say, Chris Johnson's statement?
Well, wait, are you suggesting that that be a new letter or?
This would be a
Need a
statement.
statement for Len to read at the meeting or to
Just be really clear in your motion.
put forward. Okay.
Can I make a comment for? I like Chris's language there, but I think we just need to make it short. By the second sentence, just leaves it open for them
Well,
to
let's make, should
drag
we
it
make a
on.
motion to,
Make a
to
motion so we
talk
can
about it?
Yeah.
So I think it'd be better to just use
No,
the first sentence and stop.
Let's make a motion so we can talk about it.
I'll make a motion to consider, I'll make, oh, sorry, Barbara was gonna make a motion. Didn't want to
It's
step on
fine.
your,
It's
I'll make a motion then to have Len read this statement at tomorrow's meeting with Caltrans.
Do I have a
Second
second?
it. Second it.
Okay. Discussion.
Why don't you go around the table?
Okay, we'll go through. I'll go the other end first. Dan?
Yeah, I just think that the second sentence kind of leaves a back door for Caltrans. I think we should just be, it's much stronger if we
Dan,
stop
just make a
at the
motion.
end of the first sentence.
Let's go ahead and make a motion to delete the second sentence, please.
So I'll make a motion to amend the first motion. You guys make it really complicated, by doing it
Just
this
trying to
way.
get through it, Dan. Go ahead, please.
So I'd like to make a motion to amend the first motion by striking the second sentence.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay, fails for lack of a second. Okay. Dave?
I'm fine.
Michelle?
This is tough. I thought that we were going to the meeting asking for more information, and now we're taking a pretty strong stand here.
This says kept the second sentence to come to the meeting, come to our meeting.
Right, I'm talking, yeah, this is the first sentence saying that the MCC strongly opposes the installation of the permanent lighted signs. For me personally, I wouldn't say I agree with that right now. I want to find out more information about what the purposes of these signs. I think Claire brought up a really good point about the fact that, last year when we had the tunnel closure, a big part of that problem was that we weren't aware that the tunnel was closed, and a lot of people, were greatly impacted by that. While I do agree that a lot of people do use Waze and other planning tools in order to plan out their route, when you do the same commute every single day, I don't think you always check it, especially if it's kind of later in the evening or at a time when you don't expect any traffic issues to be in the way. So I do think that there could be a justification for having signs like this, but I want to understand what Caltrans's plan is to use the signs, and before I, before I
So,
would make any sort
Michelle,
of
can I ask,
Respectfully,
definitive
though,
statement.
Michelle?
it's
So,
Yes.
respectful, but we're
Dan,
not talking
Dan,
about that. It's
Dan,
clear because they have them in both directions.
Dan,
So
I'm
it's a different
talking
issue.
to Michelle, Dan. Michelle, I wonder, I think what you're saying is you would like it to read more like, currently the MCC strongly opposes the installation of the signs, but is interested in further information.
I just don't, I don't personally agree with the strongly opposes section right now. I think, yeah, I think there's a lot, like for me, well, these signs don't sound great, and I agree that they, they're not really along the lines of the character of the Midcoast. I also don't think that the signs that we now have permanently out there, they're not permanent signs, but the signs that are sitting on both sides of the crosswalk, are, I think, even more hideous than these signs that are being proposed, although we don't have images, so I don't know for sure. So I'm just objecting personally to this, the term strongly opposes. But I'd love to hear what the rest of the council and even members of the community have to say.
Well, I mean, I think that certainly you could say something like the MCC has strong reservations about this.
Why don't you go around the table?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go around the table. We'll go at the front end first. Barb? You're muted, Barb.
I have nothing to say.
Okay, thank you. Claire?
I agree 100% with what Michelle said. I think just a tiny tweak of the wording would be perfect.
Okay. So that is a wording that basically expresses reservations, but would like Caltrans to come to the council.
Right, we need more information.
Okay. Michelle? So Michelle, would you like to try to word a variation of the first sentence?
I liked what you proposed. The MCC has strong reservations.
You skipped me, Len.
What's that?
You skipped me.
No, we're on Michelle. So you're saying, so.
You started with Michelle, and then you go around and you skipped me, and now you're back to Michelle.
We'll get to you, Dan.
Yeah, the amendment that I would put to this statement would be the MCC has strong reservations about the installation of permanent lighted signs, and would like more, like instead of splitting it up and saying the council further requests, I would say, and would like a representative Caltrans to come to the next MCC meeting to provide a detailed description. I'll just copy and paste this into the chat the way I would propose it being
Okay, very
modified.
Good. Yeah, go ahead and do that.
Okay.
While you're doing it, would you like to make a comment, Dan?
Yeah, I just wanted to say in regards to if some council members are considering that, the purpose may be to alert people whether the tunnels are closed or not. It should be, in my mind, clearly obvious that that's certainly not the purpose, based on that they're on both sides of the both directions of the road. So clearly, we're not talking about an alert specifically to whether or not the tunnel is closed. So if we're all in agreement that we, the whole alert to the tunnel being closed, that's a completely different issue that we're not talking about now. So I think we can be pretty strongly opposing the installation of these permanent lighting signs that they are proposing.
Okay, got it. Dave, you want to make a comment?
So not specifically on the wording, but these signs have an identical purpose to the signs you see on the freeways that are on big steel posts. Full stop. That is the full intent of these signs. Right. They're used for anything that Caltrans wants to put up there, or often sometimes the request of the CHP, or sometimes the request of the county. They are general purpose message signs.
Okay, got it. Okay, so Michelle has now amended it to say the MCC has strong reservations about the installation of the permanent lighted signs currently proposed for the Midcoast, and would like a representative Caltrans to come to the next MCC meeting to provide a detailed description of the signs and the installation plan. Okay.
Just sounds too much like we're open to the option
I think she's saying we want to hear, we want to hear information as opposed to a flat no. Okay. So, so people ready to vote on the as amended?
Does the community want to make any comments?
I don't see any signs yet from the community. I see Kimberly Williams has her hand up.
Hi. So just a reminder that the tunnel already has electronic signs on both ends and inside the tunnel for traffic coming that way. So I think that serves one of the purposes that was mentioned. And I want to reiterate Greg Diega's earlier comment that it carries more weight to submit something in writing than to show up and give a verbal comment. And whatever you wordsmith here tonight, I think you should also put that in writing and submit it as well. This statement that the iteration that Michelle just posted, I think is fine. I do not support these signs for all the reasons that other community members have mentioned, but I'm a little concerned about the statement that you just wordsmithed because it does sound a little like you agree to the signs as long as it's explained to you. And I think it needs to be a little stronger in that regard, that you need to tell them that you don't necessarily support these signs, that there might be other options that are needed. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, I mean, I agree if we do this, it would also be provided in writing. So let's just go ahead and vote on this. Claire, could you call the roll?
Are we voting to have you say this at the meeting? Are we voting to put this in writing? What are we voting on?
Well, communicated, I think that would both be at the meeting and provided in writing.
Is that what we're voting on?
That's what I would suggest.
Okay, so remember, we have a motion that's been made and seconded, so we have to have an amended motion, and we have to vote on that, and then we can vote on the overall motion.
I move to amend the original motion to have this, oh, sorry, just to clarify, the amendment would be to have this statement read aloud by Len at tomorrow's meeting with Caltrans and also sent via email, I guess, to Caltrans.
Very good. Okay. So we're going to vote to adopt the amended version. So
Do you
Claire,
have a second?
second.
You second, okay.
Yep. Okay, Claire, call the
Ready to
roll.
vote? Okay. Len,
Yes.
Dan,
I wanted to buy the Lexus, so I got to buy the Pinto. So I wanted more, but if this is all we got, I'll say yes.
Barbara,
Yes. That's not me.
Dave,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
I vote yes, 7-0, 6-0.
6-0. Thank you. That
Okay,
was
now we got to vote on the amended motion.
Now we vote on the motion. That was just accepting
That was the amendment. Now we need to vote on the amended motion.
You want to state the amended motion?
And no, it's already there. It's in the recording. I don't think we need to do that.
Go, Claire.
Okay, I'm confused, but whatever.
I think we should be clear on the amended motion, and essentially it's just adding the letter. Right?
Yeah,
Or
the amended motion
emailing
is
the
to
letter.
have this statement read at tomorrow's meeting with Caltrans and to email the statement to Nina Hoffmarcher, environmental planner, as stated on that public meeting notice. I believe that's who we would send it to, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, Len,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
6-0.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. The second communication with Caltrans this week had to do with the encroachment permit, which has been granted by Caltrans, and basically DPW has said it's a 3-week process for them to complete the project. And the clock is already running on that. I sent an additional communication to DPW to ask who was responsible for the signage that would go along with this, or even in advance of that, as it hasn't been well signed yet. And I don't have an answer on that yet. I believe it's either going to be DPW or Parks, and expect to get an answer for that, but I don't have further information. I guess then the positive side, that was the Caltrans action. Final item is there was a meeting held at Caltrans between Supervisor Horsley with people from the county and the MCC, and from about 15 people from Caltrans. So that was attended for the MCC by myself, by Dave and Michelle, and also Carrie was there. I'm just going to, in a quick overall, as far as the crosswalks go, the concerns about the crosswalk was brought up. They identified to the county people who would be involved in basically addressing concerns there. There was no commitment to remove it. There was a commitment to try to continue to make it safer, and no further insight on it as it got there. As far as the other crosswalk, it's been sort of put on something of a permanent hold to an indefinite future point. And the county and Caltrans expressed a strong commitment to communicate on different levels to try to work together. That was the overall tone of it. So Dave or Michelle, do you want to say anything else about the meeting? I will talk about what I presented at the end of the meeting, but just in terms of overall description of the meeting. Dave?
Don made the point once again that they really need to make that crosswalk in Moss Beach safer, and that we weren't happy about the way they did it. And I made that same point later in a very much more direct fashion, and that we did not want to see any more crosswalks installed on the Midcoast across the highway unless they were safe from the very beginning when they're installed. The other item that was discussed at some length was the crossing at Gray Whale Cove. This was mostly driven by Dawn, and the statement from Caltrans was that it's waiting on the county to agree with the maintenance agreement once everything is done. So Dawn had thought it was waiting for Caltrans. Caltrans said, no, we sent it back to the county. There's been back and forth and we're waiting on the county. So hopefully that moves ahead sometime soon. And Dawn also made the point that the community would very much prefer the flashing rectangular beacons to the hawk signals at Gray Whale Cove, but there was not a lot of discussion about that point from the Caltrans side.
I just want to remind the council that I submitted to Supervisor Horsley and every other supervisor that I received close to 1,000 petitions of a combination of mostly community members with a lot of visitors that preferred an pedestrian underpass versus a light crossing. So for you to say that the community prefers a rectangular beacon crossing, I don't think is accurate. I don't know what number of community members you're talking about.
Dan, I did not say that. Dawn said that between the hawk signal and the flashing rectangular beacon, that he had heard from the community they would prefer the less intense rectangular flashing beacon.
Okay, so it's essentially hearsay without any, you know, substantiation.
The other thing I'll add is just there was some talk about the budget, and I believe the Supervisor Horsley mentioned that the San Mateo County had I think it was $100 million shortfall in the budget. He said was projected, and so anything that would be considered, budget would be a strong consideration. So opting for anything that's lower cost was something they discussed.
So going forward from there to connect the coast side, the purpose of the connect the coast side item on this agenda is sort of to prepare us for how we plan to document the wrap up of what we discussed on this. And that's not taking active input in this, but I do want to just briefly show the documents I'm trying to prepare to reflect the community's sentiment on things. So Dave, are you able to put those documents up?
Yeah, I'm going to put them up one at a time. Which one did you want up first?
Put up the tabulation of the itemized comments. That is the community response. Let's see. Okay.
Point of order, this is just now being shared. I don't want to read all this on the computer. I think we really just need to move to the next. We just need to move past this. It's already getting late. We've got other items on that we need substantial discussion.
Yeah, no, this isn't for discussion. It's just to tell how the process is going to work. Thank you.
Where is this publicly available?
I can't read it.
It's, is it up there? What's up there? Okay, let me tell you what I'm doing. We had approximately 200 individual comments from our study session and from other MCC meetings in which people expressed opinions on different point topics. So I'm assembling that into a table by topic, which will be shared with the public. People can review it if they would like to add additional comments or they would like to have their comments adjusted, they can contact us about that. So this would be prepared for a submission just to reflect all of the individual comments we've gotten on this. And these are not with respect to summarizing where opposing views are presented, but just to capture all the items said. Okay.
Question?
This will all go up after this meeting in preparation to have a final version of this at our meeting in 2 weeks when the county brings their final report on Connect the Coast Side current draft. Yeah, Dan.
This is currently not publicly available, correct?
No, because it hasn't been released to the public yet. It's going to be released for the next meeting, but it's asking the public to respond.
It sounded like you made some structural changes to the document. Is that true?
I organized all of the comments that came in that were reflected in our minutes, and then I sorted them by topic.
Are we still going to be able to see what was provided to you by the county?
No, this is what our citizens have said to us in our MCC meetings.
I understand that, but the county produced it, gave it to you, and then you restructured it.
No, this is purely MCC, Dan.
This is the comments that our secretaries or Michelle, in the case of our study session, recorded. I just reorganized it so you could see all the comments on each different topic.
I was under the understanding that this was the comments that were in all of the breakout rooms.
No.
That's a separate document.
No, let me back up. Next, at our next MCC meeting, the county will, at the end of the week before, basically, they'll release their write-up of what they've taken away from all of the meetings that have been held. That'll be an extended document they'll release. And they will come to our next meeting and give a presentation on that to summarize it. And that will wrap up their feedback from the processes that they've run. Okay, what I've done is to take the comments the public has made at our MCC meeting since June, identify them by the person's comment and what they were commenting about, and then sorted them so you could look at the different items in groups. Okay, so that's there for people to read as input to the next meeting.
Okay, fine. I understand better now. It's just that I've been expecting the document from the county
That will
for all
come
this
to us.
time, and it's way delayed.
I understand that, Dan, that the
reason.
current hard commitment is to release that to us a week from this Friday. So that would be basically on the 18th in advance of coming to present that to our meeting on the 23rd. I know it's gone through two delay cycles, but that's what I'm proposing there. Okay. So for example, if you look at virtual meeting, we have about 20 comments on the virtual meeting. Most all of which say they really didn't like them very well. But anyway, in roundabouts, you have comments pro, comments against. Okay.
Is this something we can link to the newsletter? We can talk about that later.
We'll bring it up there in part, yeah. So Dave, could you put up the priority projects next?
Yep.
One of the things that in the Caltrans meeting did come up in listening to the Caltrans people talk about projects is that they could relate fairly specifically to things that might be done fairly immediately. We certainly see them do things like crosswalks very quickly, or projects that take some amount of time, like a few years, 5 years. And to me, the really productive part of Connect the Coast side on the project side, not the management plan, is what are our priority projects. So what I proposed here and sharing with the community is a potential set of priority projects for Highway 1, not other parts. And I would see bringing this to a discussion at our meeting on the 23rd when Caltrans gives their wrap up, because I think it's important to us to identify somewhere between 5 to 8 projects that are things that we specifically want to see done in the next 5 years. So this is a draft form to look at, to share, disagree with, or whatever. And that would be brought to our next meeting to close on. This is the draft version. I also shared this with Caltrans today, just to give a focus to them on the things we need and to highlight how none of these can work if the county and Caltrans aren't working in sync. So that's what we have here. In addition, we have had, besides the bullet comments, and could you put in the comments from the community slide? We've had people who have done, really extended letters to raise points, or done even short papers on things. And I would like those put together into a single document we submit. So I've gone through our minutes where people have brought things forward and looked to assemble those into a single document that we could put over to Caltrans. This particular one I have just as an example that came in. It's for 92, some things on 92, but well thought out. And there are many of these we've received, and I want to make sure we forward those in a group to the county so that they can review each of those items, as well as an invitation if people have something else they've developed or they would like to put something in, to send that to the MCC, and we can put it into a single document. This is not a request for discussion of those, but it's make sure that every person who has an idea has gotten their say and that we can track it as submitted to the county.
Len?
Similarly, for the council itself, I think every council member should have the chance to document points that they would like to make that may be extended. And so that's an invitation to each council member, if you want to bring out points, not that are a line or two of bullets, but something you've thought out or would like to express as another document we would submit to the county. So basically one for council members who had to look at this much more closely in some cases, and one for the community.
Len?
Yes, Dan?
I know in the far past, you've had a history of running meetings into like 11, sometimes 12 a.m. Before you got on, we had an agreement that we would end meetings at 9:30, not beleaguer them, not take them, not just run them on long and long and long. I think we're at that point right now. I think we need to kind of really just work through the rest of this. I mean, drop this agenda item right now.
We just closed on this item, Dan. Dan, we've just closed this item.
Okay, great. Well, I just wanted to say it's well after 9:30, and we still got a lot to go through. So let's hopefully we can get through the rest of it quickly.
Sounds good. Okay. The next is an update on the Midcoast newsletter. So Michelle or Carrie, would you like to give us an update?
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen. Can you guys see that?
I can see it.
Okay, great. All right, so just wanted to give a quick update. We've talked about the Midcoast newsletter at several meetings before, but we are getting pretty close to publishing the first version. So I wanted to run through just a quick overview of what we will be doing. As a reminder, the purpose of the newsletter is to continue the collaboration between the county and the MCC to sustain communication with the Midcoast community through a quarterly newsletter. Goals are to continue that communication, to engage proactively, to create a climate that generates inclusive and informed dialogue, to increase the awareness of the MCC, as well as the projects and the programs that we're working on related to the Midcoast, and then overall to support the goals of the MCC and our charter. So overview of the newsletter that we've put together. We have content that has been created by the Supervisor Horsley staff, specifically Carrie Dahlman, and a 3-member group from the MCC, including Len, myself, and Dan. We will be sending the newsletter quarterly, and it will go to at least 400 residents of the Midcoast. We haven't compiled the actual list yet and deduped everything, but basically it includes a list that Supervisor Horsley maintains, email addresses that we received from the survey that we did earlier in the year, as well as people who are subscribed to the MCC agendas through their agenda mailing list. We will send the email out to that group of people. So overall, we think it's around 400 people or even more, and we hope to increase those signups too. I'd like to in a future meeting discuss how we can increase the signups by potentially putting a sign up form on our on our website. And then the email will be available in both English and Spanish, so it'll be translated. This is kind of an overview of the newsletter. This is a draft. We haven't finalized it yet. We're not going to go through the actual full content. As you can see, it turns out to be a pretty long newsletter because we want to cover several topics. So this is like basically just 3 screenshots of the newsletter. But I wanted to go over the sections and just an overview of what it would look like. So we start out here with the title, image, and description. Right now we're using the same image from our website, calling it the Midcoast newsletter, and then having a quick intro as to what it's about. Then we will have messages from Supervisor Horsley and the Midcoast Community Council. And these are like the MCC message is something that the 3 of us wrote. Major topics. So each edition of the newsletter will have major topics that are timely topics of interest to the community. And on the next page, we'll go through the ones from this quarter. Then we'll have other updates. And then, oh, sorry, I missed. Around the Midcoast is a section that we've developed that will have specific items, just like a couple bullet points of items that are important to each of the 5 communities of the Midcoast, or Moss Beach, Montera, Princeton, El Granada, and Miramar. And then we have the other update section, and then how to get involved is primarily links about how to sign up for SMC alerts, how to contact us, how to contact the county, things like that. And then links at the end to the county and MCC websites. So topics that we would like to include in this first edition are wildfires. Obviously, that's a very important topic. The information that we'll be presenting in the newsletter will be very factual. We're not taking a position in terms of like how the Midcoast, how the MCC feels on certain things. It's basically like, here's what's happening. It's a newsletter. It's events. It's about so with the wildfire update, that is about basically facts. We want to try to get the latest facts about what's happening. Links on ways that people can take action. So potentially information on we talked earlier in the meeting about how El Granada the Quarry Park was deemed to be a high fire danger area. So there'll be information on that. Links to potentially like how to clear space behind your home. We're trying to put together like helpful information that people can really use. And so you'll see throughout like the newsletter, there's a lot of links out to other places. We want to, it's really jam-packed with a lot of information. The Medio bridge closure, so an update on that, and the the closure of the actual bridge, and then the alternative along Highway 1. Connect this coastside. This version of the newsletter, we know that's a project that's like really ongoing, but this version of the newsletter will be more of a summary of what Connect the Coastside is and the meetings that we've had, and links to the site, the website where people can find out more information about that. The parallel trail, and then we have some COVID-19 updates. And so really, that's all I wanted to go through. I want to keep this short for this meeting, but next steps will be to finalize the content. We hope to do that really soon. We've had a challenge in that we want to wait until we get all the information in. Like, for example, about Connect the Coastside, we want to give a really relevant update, and so we want to get a lot of that information in. But what we found is that like we're waiting, and now we're just delaying the newsletter because we're waiting for information that isn't coming in a timely manner. So I think we really have to put a hard stop on this and finalize the content in the next week, because once we finalize that content, we do need to submit it for Spanish translation, which can take about a week. And then we'll put it together and send the newsletter. So I think my best estimate is that we will send the newsletter sometime in the next 2 weeks. We aren't planning on reviewing the entire content of the newsletter in this meeting. That's pretty much what the group of 3 of us will do, is review the content, decide on it together with Carrie from the supervisor's office, and then finalize that and send it out. That's it. Any questions?
Okay, so.
Yes, I have a question. Yes.
So hold on.
Sure, Dan. Oh.
Yeah, Dan, first, I just want to go through the council first for questions.
I'm on the council.
I know, but we're going to let you wait a little bit. We're going to go with Barb first.
I have no questions.
No questions from Barb. Claire?
Nothing.
Dave?
Nothing except a suggestion that once we have the mailing list created, we can publish how people can subscribe on Nextdoor. That's probably the best way to get a lot more subscribers.
Great idea.
Good point. And Dan?
Okay. Like I've said for a long time, there's essentially a conflict between the county and the community regarding this newsletter. Now, the conflict is that the community has certain set of interests and the county has different set of interests. all along, it's been my understanding that the committee, which is Len, Michelle, myself, would kind of get it going, and the council would make final approval of all of the language. And I just want to reiterate, just want to confirm, currently, the rest of the council does not have a copy of this to review. That's correct, right? Okay,
That
well, that's
wasn't-
wrong. It shouldn't be that way. It's absurd that it's not that way. And I want to say that I'm not happy with the way the committee's been going. Let's just talk about the first section, which I can't read. Sorry. The first part, I think, was the, or one of the first earlier ones was the wildfire report. So I think that there should be some sections in this area that's specific to our coast side and not general to the county. Help for community members in our community. As far as the connect the coast side portion, I want to allow everybody on this meeting, they took the time to come here. They knew it was on the agenda. They should be able to read it. If they were able to read it, I think everybody would agree that the way the language is, it's like, hey, here's the connect the coast side. It's happening, baby. Let's just get on board and go with it. Well, no, that's not the way the community feels about this. And you're just not, number one, you're not sharing it with the rest of the community. There's a vast amount of the community members that participated are not happy with the process. You're not, there's nothing in this that says that, and you're not giving any link to the facts as far as what was said at the meetings and such. So those are the two things. Ongoing, I think that the whole council needs to have a better, and the community, don't forget about the community. The community has part of this too, needs to have a hand in this. And I don't think it should be managed by only the committee specific. Sounds like it's mostly, I don't know. I really don't know. There's all kinds of meetings I have not been invited to. There's been
newsletter of facts.
This is the first one. Every following newsletter will be modeled after the process. More scrutiny.
Okay,
please.
Dan, you've had your say. And
yes, thank you.
The issue come up is we feel working with Carrie is producing this first edition. Phil, you wanted to talk it over. And I think the best way to find out is to do the first edition. You've had good input into it as well. And not mentioned by Michelle is basically we're using live links in the newsletter to go to either materials from the MCC or the county to get more texture in it, because we're really not trying to make these extremely long, but to point to information that can be kept current. And so, and you know, this is, you know, once it's out, then I think the review of how it was approached and how it's done can be done. So, you know, that what we opted for in the committee, we told the council where once out, it'll get scrutiny and comment, which could therefore lead to a stronger second edition.
Community members would like to speak.
Going to, we have Chris.
I just had two little notes. One was when you guys have it ready for sign-ups, please let the chamber know, because we can definitely push that out through our email, which goes to roughly 600 locals. So hopefully that'll help add some
That's
to your
great.
list.
Mhm,
And
good.
then my second thing is just a little word of advice. Based on the letter, or your email is most likely going to get fairly long, just in that if you're doing it quarterly, you'll have a lot to say, which is great. Gmail in particular loves to cut off newsletters in very weird ways, and it's very hard to predict. So when you're testing out the newsletter, I would highly suggest at least having one Gmail account to test it, and just know that you might want to prioritize the articles accordingly, because a lot of people in Gmail, it does this thing that's like a tiny little link that says message clip, and a lot of people don't realize that there was more to the newsletter. And so those are just two things that we've experienced with our newsletter, and I just don't want you guys to fall into that same terrible black hole.
So
Thanks,
Crystal,
Crystal. That's a great advice.
technology point. So we're using MailChimp to publish it and expecting that will not subject.
No, I understand what she's saying. It's
Go ahead.
the length of the newsletter. Gmail can cut off newsletters and say, like, click here for more, where you have to actually open up a browser, I think, to view the entire newsletter. It's lengthy. I don't like sending a newsletter this long. I think because it's quarterly, it's you know, it's gotten to be a pretty long newsletter, and I'm concerned about that as well. Does that capture what you're saying?
Fair, and I just want to note, Gmail, the way that they break it off has nothing to do with actual physical length. It's the amount of bytes in the email. So ours is weekly, ours is half this size, and it still gets cut off every week. And so I think it's some ridiculous small size, like 128 bytes is their limit. And so really, no matter how small you tried to make it, it runs the risk anyway.
We'll be sure to test it.
Yeah. But anyways, just
yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Hi. So I've kind of watched this effort since you mentioned it a few meetings ago with interest, and I think this looks really great. I think it's a great idea. There are two things that I'm curious about. You said it should be factual and that it's going to be mostly informational. I'm curious why the county is, I thought this was also, as Chris mentioned, to elevate the visibility of the MCC, and I'm curious why the county is a partner. And also, why are there messages from Supervisor Horsley? Because I feel like that allows him a mouthpiece that is political and not in keeping with the purpose of the newsletter. And then the last thing is that I'd like to see maybe in subsequent newsletters some mention of diversity efforts, because I think that's really important right now. And I recognize that that's a difficult thing to approach, and I like that you're putting it in Spanish for outreach purposes. But I think it would be great to mention how the MCC and or the county is engaged
it takes a lot of work. We've had 4 or 5 meetings, I think, so far on it. We definitely rely on the county staff to help create the content, put it together, put it all into MailChimp, do the translation. So it is a collaborative effort, and we do need to rely on them on the county and the county staff for help, just because we are just time limited as a volunteer organization. I hear your point on the comment section, and I think you'll find that it's basically just an introduction. I'm not sure if we will. I think in response to this first version, this first newsletter, we can decide whether that's something we want to include going forward, or whether this is just more of an introduction to the very first edition, and then we drop that section in the future. On the effort to translate to Spanish, I think that's important, since so many of our community members are Spanish speaking. I do really like your idea about including some of the diversity efforts that we are doing as a county, and then as a Midcoast council. We haven't actually taken up any diversity efforts as a council, though I think it's something that we should do. And if we do that, then I think putting the outcome of any sort of efforts that we take up into the newsletter would be appropriate.
Okay. Dave Olson.
So what I just heard really disturbed me. My understanding was the county's role in this was to act as staff to help get it done, translate it. To hear that they're doing content bothers me a lot, especially starting out that way. That to me is completely contrary to the intent of this newsletter.
Oh,
Well, when I say content, I mean they're helping to write the sections, which we are all reviewing and approving before it gets put out.
County should not be writing that, in my opinion. That should all be written by council members and or members of our community.
I think it was originally billed as a joint newsletter, so I'm not.
That was not the way it was billed. That is not the way it was billed.
This was the common knowledge thing, right? That came out of the common knowledge that Dan and I got kicked out of. That was supposed to be our newsletter, with, just like Dave said, with staff, the county supplying the staff for all what we needed. This is not what we agreed to.
Like I said, the topics of the newsletter are factual. There's no opinion section of the newsletter. It's I don't think whether the county wrote it or whether a member of the council wrote it, you would be able to tell the difference, because it is just, here's what's happening, here's how to find out more, here are links. I mean, we can debate as a council whether we take on that effort individually or whether we rely on county staff, but the ultimate, like the goal of having them having them be a part of this was to have them use their time and effort. We don't have that much time and effort to put into this, so
if we can't put time into it, we shouldn't be doing it, in my opinion.
I agree.
Well,
I agree.
Okay, well, we'll take that into consideration, I guess. I think the people talking aren't the writers for it,
like, what I just want to understand what difference it makes. Like, if we have a section about wildfires, here's what's happening, here are the wildfires in our area, here are the links.
Right.
We all meet the 3 of us on the council and the county meet, discuss what we want to put in there, and then it goes to the county to actually write it up. Then the council members, the 3 of us, review that, make sure it is what we want to say, and then we put it together and send it out. I don't see what difference that makes. We're relying on the county because they have the staff.
So I think when we publish the first edition, we'll find out.
Yeah.
Well, I personally am very opposed to saying, oh, go ahead and publish it, and then the rest of us on the council will find out. That bothers me quite a bit. And it is an editorial content issue on not matter whether it's facts or not, and nobody's going to ever be able to completely say something is a fact or opinion, but just what's there and what's not, that is an editorial decision, and all of that should be done by the council and or community members, in my opinion. And that's
So we are in this
from
meeting
the very beginning
talking,
going to be done.
right? So I've reviewed the topics that we're going to talk, that are going to be in the newsletter. We can discuss those if we want as a council. That's why we're bringing this to the council.
It's not the topics, it's the content.
Okay, I just don't see how, you know, if we're gonna write an entire newsletter in a meeting or review the entire content of a newsletter in a meeting, because unfortunately, because of Brown Act, we can't do that offline.
Not what I'm asking for.
Well,
Yeah, no, how, what's the solution?
well,
Okay.
I think we have to go ahead and produce this. I think what the.
No, we do
No,
not.
We don't.
No.
No.
Hold on. I think you can't really see what you've got till you look at it. What I hear the council saying is they would like the opportunity to review it. I'm certainly not, it's as a published newsletter, publishing it to the community. So if the council wants to have a session where they comment, then I'm quite willing to do that. But that's how you get there. And
Some hands up. Listen, this meeting is getting way too long. We still got a lot to go through unless you wanted to cut it short, but there's some hands up right now.
we'll go with starting at the top, Kimberly Williams.
Hi, so Michelle, I appreciate this was a huge endeavor and that it does take a lot of time. I do understand that. And I guess right off the bat, I have to say that I do have a concern, because when you see message from Don Horsley on there, that is immediately a profile for him. It's not about the Midcoast. That's an opportunity for him to get his name out there again, to have it on people's minds. And to me, that's a political message, no matter what the message says. So that's a concern, that it's going to be used as a mouthpiece for his benefit. And then the other thing, I guess, is, did you actually ask for volunteers from the community who might want to possibly, you know, contribute or compile and manage the newsletter? Because sometimes there are young people who really want to do this kind of thing, and they, you know, are really good at it. And maybe that's an option. But I do understand the problems. And you know, I think it's a great idea. Just that one thing for me is that with the county involved, I think it is a liability, and it does send a message that is not in keeping with the purpose of the newsletter.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments. I think if we want, if our goal was to create our own newsletter, then, you know, we can certainly do that. We can certainly ask the community for help. We can have, you know, different members of the council write the different sections. I think that's, to me, that's, we've gone through this in several meetings, and we, you know, we endeavored to create this collaboration between the council and the county. And if we want to decide as a council that that's not what we want to do, and we want to stop this and we want to just write our own, then, you know, I'd be open to that. I do hear your concerns about this, specifically the section, but from the supervisor. Yeah.
So the first letter, the first edition, and I think there's a view that it's a common effort, and that's a separate issue. There's a greeting from the MCC and a greeting from the county through Don. I don't even know that it necessarily has to be there.
Right.
If people feel that's sort of the wrong message coming in, I don't see a problem in eliminating that. in terms of the content itself, I think basically what I hear is that the council wants to review the final edition, and this is a council decision. Then I think they have the right to do that. So
So we have to do that in a meeting.
yeah, no,
Right.
no, we have to do that. So I think we're scheduled to try to bring a wrap to this effort in the meeting this week. And then we can look how to get a council review.
There's
To
five
me,
more
that
hands
just
up.
defeats the purpose of a newsletter.
There's
Yeah.
five hands up, and it's 10:07.
Dan, thank you. So I think that's sort of where we're at there. But let's hear from the community going forward with Carrie Dahlman. Well, I tell you what, Carrie, we're going to come to you last. We're going to go at the bottom with Claire.
Okay, I wasn't the first one that had my hand up. I can
Well, I
talk.
know we're going to go in reverse order here. Claire?
Okay. I think that the history of this is that it was proposed initially by the county. I think there is some risk that we could be used as a mouthpiece by the county, but there's also an opportunity for us to say what we want to say and to communicate and be more visible with the community. The fact is the Midcoast Community Council is a county, we're in the county, I don't know, we are a county group in some sense. That's who sponsors us. The community elects us, but the county has us in their official structure. So we have both roles. I think that it would be better if we just produce this ourselves, but I think that's not going to happen. I don't see all of us sitting down writing articles and putting the pictures together and putting all the links in. And I think we do, if we're going to do this, it does need to be a collaborative process. I don't think it can be done in a meeting. I would like to get more people involved in it in the community, but I don't think we're going to be able to do it without the county. If we do it at all, we don't have to do it.
Gotcha. Dave, you would want to say more?
Yeah, I am in no way saying this needs to be done without the county, but this is the very first time that I have ever heard in all of the discussions about this newsletter that the county was providing content as opposed to staff support.
Okay, Barbara?
I'm gonna just piggyback on, again, what Dave said. When the three of us were originally chosen to be part of the Common Knowledge group, and this newsletter idea came up through, I believe it was part of the survey or something. I think Dawn and this gal from Common Knowledge said, this is your newsletter. We are going to give you the staff, but this is your newsletter. And this isn't what I'm seeing. So and again, we got taken out of the loop. So I don't know what was further discussed that had it changed from what we were led to believe was going on. Thank you.
Michelle Dragony.
Hi. If you go to my website and you go to the link that I put in the chat, I cover the MCC as if it was a newsletter. I have tens of thousands of people, hits per month on my website, and I think I do a pretty good job of getting your message out there. So the email may be divisive, as opposed to having somebody who's, if you look at my posts, they're very neutral. I basically take the video of your meeting and curate it. So I invite you to that approach to getting your message out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie.
Thanks, Len. I was just going to add a little bit more on just as far as the process has gone for the creation of the newsletter with the MCC group. I would say, me as part of the county team, I've brought some initial brainstorming ideas together, drafted some initial blurbs, many of which have been completely rewritten by the MCC team. Dan has also added a few really good bullet points and pointed us to some additional information that we should be including. Michelle, you've also had some really great edits, lots of links to add. So I just wanted to reiterate that it has been a collaborative process. Content creation hasn't necessarily been on one group or the other. And that's why we've been coming together these few times to meet, discuss everything. We have all of the blurbs laid out on a Google Doc, as well as in the preview that's available to all MCC members that we've been working on it with. Thanks.
Thank you, Carrie. Okay. I think we're going to close this item with the committee that's there. We'll meet this week, take these items into consideration, and come back to the council. Anybody else want to say anything else then? Okay. Last item on the regular agenda, the candidate forums. Those are scheduled to go on the September 21st, of Monday. That will be the Harbor District at 6:30 and the MCC at 7:45. The following day on Tuesday, that's September 22nd, is the school board. There are two areas that have contested elections, and there are candidates for each of those two, and that will start at 7 o'clock on Tuesday. We're sending out now, tell to the council and the community, and send out an email tomorrow that members of the community and the council who have questions they would like discussed in any of these forums by the candidates, basically the moderators, the League of Women Voters presents topics to the candidates of the forum, and they each get an opportunity to speak about it. And it's our responsibility to collect those topic questions for the league to present. So under each of those titles, I'm open to receiving ideas for things that you would like to see. Certainly the MCC should have a lot of things that they would like put forward for the MCC or even the harbor. And some people have more active interest in education as well. So we're looking to get all of that input. We'll be having a flyer that would go out next Wednesday to announce it, as well as to get a write-up in the review for the following Monday. Any questions about the forums? Brandon Kwan.
So you're saying that the forums are happening on the 21st and 22nd?
That is correct.
And so what I think about some of the forums is that I would prefer if it's one forum per day, because 2 forums might be a bit too much for some viewers, and so I was just wondering if you're able to spread them out.
We're constrained by the league, who supports a number of different organizations, and we got 2 days from them. I think we have done this before in this pattern. I understand what you're saying, but we only have the 2 sessions to work with, 2 days to work with. Sort of consistent with what we've done before.
So basically, those are the dates that the leagues offer you.
Well, those were the options. I think there was a preference to go with September, was what the council indicated, and there was one day that did not work at all for some of the candidates as well, and the dates that were available, only these 2 were available once we eliminated the one.
Got it. Thank you.
But thanks for the comment. Dave?
Not a comment on the forum per se, but we did receive a mail message after the meeting started from Eugene Whitlock, who was asking if we would provide a forum for the community college election, and I told him I would bring it up.
I think the boat is pretty much sailed, although, well, how does the council feel about it? We haven't supported that election before, but I'd certainly like to hear comments from the council or the community, whether we could reach out and see if that's possible to schedule.
Seems to me we did have them once. But we'd have to see what the schedule's like.
Yeah. I mean, the combination of the chamber and well, Crystalline, you're here. You're involved in an October forum, is that right, Crystalline?
Yes, we are doing 3 forums, 2 kind of mid-coast, one for Midcoast Council, and then one for the harbor, and then a 3rd one for the Half Moon Bay City Council, and we're doing them all in the first 2 weeks of October.
Okay, so you're neither doing the community college nor the CUSD school board, right?
No, that was too much for us to handle.
Yeah. I mean, I think at this point, just having worked with them and seeing where we're at in time, it would be hard to do this time. I guess. Well, if there were, I mean, it's more a question of the lease capacity. Barbara, comment? Barbara?
You're on mute, Barbara.
Sorry. I'm just confused. The chamber is putting on a candidates forum for the MCC, and the League of Women Voters is also doing one for the MCC.
Yeah, there's often multiple forums going on.
I only did one.
Well, no, theirs is in October. I mean, this is, I think in past years.
I'm just asking for clarification. You don't need to
Okay.
make any excuses. Thank
That's
you.
clarification. They're about a month apart. Brandon.
So basically the MCC, the League of Women forums in September, and the Chamber of Commerce is the one in October.
That's correct.
And it does that conflict with any of the presidential or vice presidential debates? Because I remember my forum 4 years ago was at the night of the vice presidential debate.
I think we're ahead of those in ours, and that's all I could tell you.
Got it. I was just wondering the one for the Chamber of Commerce, since there's a bunch of debates in October.
Crystalline, did you look at that conflict?
We are doing that on Friday. We're gonna look at all that over and figure out our logistics.
Okay. That's all I can tell you now, Brandon. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this? Okay. Under council activity, I think there were some things we had talked about discussing, but we're quite late. So I'm going to, unless anybody has something they're pressing to talk about, move past that. Don't see any hands up. Future agendas. But basically, we've said for our next meeting, we'll have Connect the Coast Side from the county coming back, wrapping up our comments, and we'll have a fire-related agenda from Barb and Dan. And I think they're going to get support additionally from some community people. So those are the main items currently on. Okay. Accept a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Night.